Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 30. I am your host Mo, and I'm joined as always by my multilingual friends Jody,
Taishama Netherin,
and Willie.
Dobre večer.
Okay, Jody, True Blood of a Netherin. Okay, we get it. I think you've been buoyed by recent media events.
I certainly have.
What have you got there, Vil?
Russian.
Russian.
Duh.
Duh.
That's the only Russian word I know.
You don't know Nostrovia?
No. Did you get any responses to your Star Trek intro from the last episode?
Yes, I did, and I owe you $40.
Adrian was the first to respond and the only to respond.
Luckily, you're on the other side of the world, so you're never going to see that $40.
Also, I mean, you didn't have a lot of say in that bet. I just said that I bet you $20. You were no way obligated to accept that bet.
So much for a Lannister always pays their debts.
Thank God I'm not a Lannister.
Yeah, said everyone. Guys, I feel like these chapters are something new. Jody, I tweeted in the last week saying I haven't been this excited to record an episode in a long time, and you were a little bit confused by my extreme enthusiasm. Like, I mean, obviously they're cool chapters and everything, but why these? And I think what it is I really feel like in these chapters we are seeing the characters sort of make decisions about where to go and like opting into splitting up very specific missions. Like they've got goals in mind. They want to go do things, even if some of those goals are rather vague. Like Rand doesn't know what he wants to go do in the Waste yet necessarily, and the girls know they need to go to Tanchico and do something and go find something. But they're deciding to split up. This is not Shadar Logoth splitting them up, forcing their hand or anything. And it feels like after the whole Stone of Tyr thing and all the events of the first three books, we're really shifting gears now and getting into what makes this story really great, like shifting out of that traditional fantasy.
My take on it is that it has moved from reactions to choices.
Yes.
They are now choosing their paths, their individual paths, whereas they reacted to fear in running, to reacting to instructions from Moiraine, and just being party to moving with the Shinarans. It's now moved into we making a decision, and this is what I'm doing, that's what you're doing, that's what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Plus, they also partnered up with the Aiel. You've got Bane and Chide, and you've got Ghoul, and they're all in the mix, and the shit's happening now, man.
And just like the stuff that we know is coming. I mean, obviously it's cheating, knowing, having read, like meeting a miss and like what that means for Egwene and Rand going to the Waste and what that means. Perrin's whole Two Rivers saga, that's epic. The girls going to Tanchico and the stuff that goes down. It is just like really, really cool shit coming up over the horizon.
He's getting into his business now. That's the part that I want.
Yes.
My biggest struggle right now is that I want to just keep reading. I don't want to stop. And I'm sitting with this, like, okay, but if you're going to read it, you're going to have to read it next week again. And then you're going to do what I have to do with the Greyhound and read it 3 times the book. I know. It's just, time is a precious resource for a 40-year-old dad. It is.
Yes. Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, and that's why I don't read ahead either. But I'm very more frequently now. I'm getting to the end of my chapters and going, yeah, I could just very easily keep going now.
I see what you're saying now, Moritz. I see. Thank you for explaining that to me. And you're right.
Yes,
they're making decisions, but to me, it's like you got to act on those decisions now. Let's go.
I was about to say it's not like anything special happens here, but I mean we get the introduction to the Finns here, and like there's big stuff that happens, So yeah, it is great. Like I said, it feels like we're shifting gears. Like okay, now the guys are really going to start accelerating. But before we shift up in gears, let's shift into reverse. Oh, boo! Go back.
Oh, Villy, where are you going? Come back, Villy. Willie's just left.
I didn't
I think he's gone to fetch a pillow. All right, then, let's burn through these quickly in our section called Callbacks. Number 1, Indonesian as a language.
Is Google wrong?
Haha. No, it is the official language of Indonesia, but Indonesia has more than 700 spoken languages over the islands.
What? Whoa.
Our friend Rowan, who's written into the show a bunch, he lived there for a while, and he was saying you can have 2 villages 10 kilometers from each other that speak completely different languages, not dialects, languages. And that seems to be the situation across all of the islands.
Did he give us any valuable feedback whether I pronounced any of that correctly?
He didn't feedback on your pronunciation, which I guess in itself is good news, but he did say what you said specifically is good evening, and that there are 4 distinct greetings depending on the time of day.
Well, that's like English.
Oh, well.
I guess.
There we go.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon,
And good
There's
night.
3 right off the dome.
Very good, Marts.
So what they have, I mean, I was unnecessarily harsh on Google for suggesting that Indonesian is the language spoken in Indonesia. But I think what probably sparked that little doubt for me was this fact that, I mean, I've also been to Indonesia, and I have vague recollections of there being loads and loads and loads of languages, and that it isn't just one blanket language. But this language, Indonesian, is made up of several different others, including it's like mostly a form of Malay, but it includes like Portuguese and Dutch and English. And it is used mostly for media, commerce, and education. So it's everybody's second language. Everybody knows it, or for the vast majority of people know how to speak it and read it, but it's no one's first language. You learn it so that you can communicate across the rest of the country, which is interesting.
I like that. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Huh, the first interesting callback ever. Well done.
Hey, easy. You cut me deep, Joe. You cut me deep. Okay, let's burn through these other ones. How was Swan's warder killed? His name was Ulrich, and when he senses Swan's shock at being confronted by Elida, he runs up into her office to go and see what is happening, and he is stabbed in the back. Never sees who kills him, and you don't actually ever read or find out who it is. But you know, Elida, come on, you're not a black sister or a dark friend or something, but stabbing a warder in the back. No boy,
that's
no.
a low blow.
But that's not a callback. That's a call forward.
We were talking about Ulrich and
All right.
how he died, and I said I think he's stabbed in the back. I'm confirming he was.
All right.
Okay, the biggest one from last week. Did Egwene and Elayne go straight to Rand's room after drinking wine in the interrogation room? The first sentence of the next chapter is the next morning. So, I mean, shame on all 3 of us for not mentioning that in the specific episode. But I think, like Joe, you during the week you had sent an explanation of how you thought things had gone, and I had exactly the same thought in my mind, except I used different days of the week in my own head.
Yeah.
But yes,
I'm not going to let this rest.
Of course you're not, Billy.
If you go out and you start a Friday night party, but your Friday night party ends at Saturday morning, 5 o'clock, and then you go to bed, then you also say the next morning. It's maybe just 2 hours that has lapsed, but you refer to the one as last night we went out and we were at the Mexican drinking multiple beers until the wee hours of the morning, and then the next morning we got up with a big hangover. So
this is true.
And also, shout out to the Mexican in J-Bay. Whoop, whoop.
Yes. I went. This bothered me because I mean, there was a pretty heated conversation at the time about like whether this was immediately after or not, and a lot of claiming of I'm the Rand now, and the mattress theory proves that it was blah blah blah.
Mattress
So
gate.
I was a little hurt, so I went back and I said, okay, I'm gonna figure this thing out. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. So I went all the way back to the beginning of the chapter where Perrin is attacked by the bubble of evil, And that chapter starts with the fishermen drawing in their nets as the sun is busy going down to try and get a place for the time of day. And the wind blows past them and then into Tyr itself. And then that's when we join Perrin and Faile. And shortly after that, his axe attacks him. And then, he goes to Rand's room and blah, blah, blah. And it was after he's been to Rand's room and called Moiraine and she's healed him that she goes back to the interrogation room. So the interrogation room scene is probably happening around midnight, between midnight and 2 a.m.-ish, right? Which means they came back from being frustrated by Rand. The girls talk about boys after Moiraine leaves. They go to bed, importantly, and sleep.
They had wine.
And then the next morning when they go to Rand's room, Moiraine has had a chance to be in Rand's room and mention starting a war with Elayne, which is something else we mentioned, Joe. When would Moiraine have had an opportunity to mention starting a war with Rand? So then the next morning around 10 a.m., like you said in your explanation, Joe, during the week, the girls rock up and blah, 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 blah. Everything happens.
But none of this explains the mattress. There was 2 mattresses in one day.
We were almost out of it, Billy.
No, well, come. Okay, come with me. Take my hand. Walk with me. Rand's first mattress was ruined by the mirror images. So that's a midnight, right?
And when was it changed? I would say probably 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
After he was healed, and in fact, I think he says even, don't change my mattress. I wouldn't be chased out of my bed, or he has some asinine response. Anyway, so that next morning it would have been changed so that by the time the girls got there, new mattress. And then during their interaction, he ruins another mattress. So they would have to come change it again. So he was saying...
In the same day.
Yes.
In the same 24-hour period.
Why do I feel like
according to your own logic, Willie, the next day, because it doesn't matter what time of morning it happened and they went to sleep and they woke up, the previous one would be...
All right, let's put this one to bed. We acknowledge that I was correct and we just move on.
But which mattress would we put it to bed in?
Words out of my mouth.
The feather one.
Okay, but now, I mean, if that was a Sunday night and everything started on Monday morning, Elayne and Egwene rock up in his room, that gives them, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to do their 3 days of canoodling and all that sort of stuff. And then the 4th day would have been Thursday. And that's when the Black Archer sisters would have been shipped to Tarvalon, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we will now remove all pins from the mattress and drinking wine to go hit on Rand theory and lay that one to rest.
Yeah. Too many pins in that mattress, they're just going to have to change it again, Billy.
Again,
but probably
they're going to be
in
upset.
another day. I don't know, maybe 2 days. Who knows?
We were wondering whether Elayne knows how to speak the old tongue or read it. Well, I say I did. I found the line that made me think that Egwene says, when Rand asked him, can you read the old tongue? When he gets excited about reading the books, Egwene says, Rand, I cannot read the old tongue. And then she shot a look at Elayne, warning her not to admit to any such knowledge.
So she probably does. I would figure she does.
Yeah.
She has a passing knowledge, I suppose royals, I don't know. I don't move in royal circles. I taught Latin, I suppose, or older languages. Yeah, so similar.
In that same conversation, Egwene mentions that one previous time she's experienced something made of Sidin, and we couldn't, off the top of our heads, remember. I speculated that maybe Agenor shielded her or something, because Rand shields them, both, her and Elayne. Yeah. And she says she's felt it once before. And it wasn't that. So I put the question out on Twitter, and a couple users responded, but the first one to come back with what I believe is the true answer is Twitter user Ingleterra. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. But they were saying that she can feel something woven of Sidin around Calandor when she goes to the Heart of the Stone in Tel'aran'rhiod and she meets Sylvie there. And Sylvie sort of like hits the sword with a stick and it stops right next to the sword. There's the air barrier. So Egwene probes Calandor while it's still hanging in the Heart of the Stone. And she can feel that there's something there that she can't identify, but she also can't penetrate it. So that's where she's felt something similar to a shield, actually, from the One Power, made of Sidin.
Okay. I thought that shield was made of both men and women channeling together.
It is. She can sense the Sidar parts, but not the Sidin parts. It's like an invisible thing that she can't penetrate. She can't read it, so she can't see the flows, obviously, or the weaves.
Right.
Now, Jody, you had one callback to go research.
Oh, shit, I didn't.
I figured, so I did it anyway.
Sorry. What was it supposed to be?
The two factions of Shadowspawn in the heart, or in the Stone of Tyr, that attacked each other. Do you want to take another stab at who they are? Because I have a definitive answer.
Well, give me the definitive answer. Don't make me look like a fool again. Let's do it.
The one is Samael. So Samael
Yes.
was making a move against Rand there. The other faction was sent by Semirog.
So not
Uh-huh.
Ravin.
Well, I was 50% right. Okay.
Your faces are amazing. I wish people
Yes.
could see them. Yes, Semirog apparently was instructed by the Dark One to intercept Samael's efforts. Dun, dun, dun.
That
Yes, I
so
mean-
okay. That completely makes sense to why the Trollocs actually killed each other and Fades and they all
And
got...
Madral.
Mm.
Yeah. So it wasn't, Lanfear wasn't involved with either of those factions, but she could well have intervened, maybe. But the fact that the Dark One himself had sent Semirog to prevent Samael from being effective in what he was trying to do here. You find out in one of the later books. There's I think it's during what people refer to as the Forsaken Coffee Hour. You know, like you've got the Dark Friends Social. There's another one where there's a bunch of Forsaken that come together and they have a bit of a chat. Semirog lets that out. Then it's like books away, and it's like almost a throwaway event in this book. And it's just another awesome example of like a tiny little plot point, revealed. Only a glimpse is revealed here, and it is explained at a time when you might even have forgotten about everything that happened in the Stone of Tyr. It's so great. Love it. Sorry, Joe, I'm going to be pedantic here because you, at one point when Rand has Lanfear pinned up against the wall, you mentioned that she floats down. Which to me, when I was listening to the episode, is like, oh, does she float down? Is she using the true power? Because we know that you can only levitate with the true power. And I read it again, and she just drops lightly to the floor. She doesn't necessarily float down. So I don't know whether she was using the true power or not.
Apology accepted. That is very pedantic. She likely lands on her feet, not to drop at 9.8 seconds.
Terminal velocity.
She's not terminal velocity yet.
Well, for that to sort of be quieted, you'll have to have a what do they call that? Airless chamber for a drop at the same rate. Yeah, you couldn't calculate that. You don't know her weight. A vacuum.
I don't know.
My words fumble me all the time.
In a vacuum, her weight is irrelevant.
Twitter, what is
in a
Lanfear's
vacuum, weight is irrelevant.
Well, the pedantry is not over. You also mentioned that Lanfear unravels Rand's weaves, but she doesn't. She cuts them, which is different.
That's what I said. Didn't I say cut? It snaps back into him.
Yes, at the time you did, but earlier when they talk about unraveling a weave, you said, yeah, Lanfear does this to Rand later as well. It's a different thing, Joe. Come on now. You're a fan. You know.
My apologies. This is unforgivable.
Okay. This one is my fault. I straight up say, Moiraine's interpretation... Jody's very excited about me admitting to a mistake.
Yes. Take the heat off me for a second.
When Moiraine is interpreting the Cariathon cycle and misinterpreting it as, Rand having to lead the spears of Tyr against Elayne in a war, I say, when I talk about the ancient dream, I say, Moiraine's interpretation of the ancient dream is, the dream of the Dragon Reborn, but it's actually either one of two things, and then I mention one thing and never the other thing. So I said that it could be the ancient dream, revealed to them in Rhuidean as, the wise ones and the clan chiefs get the visions back from, the history of the Aiel. The other thing that I wanted to mention is an ancient dream that the Aiel refer to, because they refer to life as the dream. They talk about when you die as waking from the dream. So, ending the ancient dream or whatever the reference is in the Cariathon cycle could refer to, Aiel dying, waking from the dream. So that was me completing a thought I had 2 weeks ago. Thanks for indulging me.
You're welcome.
All right. Willie.
Here we go.
You're on the chopping
Your turn.
Assume the position.
One doesn't dive into a pool full of silver pikes without getting bitten.
Excellent. Well played.
Bravo.
Can Matt sense channeling? Let us consult the book.
The oracle.
No, in all seriousness, remember, when we had that conversation, I said to you, I think I know what you're talking about. Matt does have reactions to people channeling around him, and I couldn't say for sure whether that was because people were channeling into him or if he could sense people channeling around him. And the specific instances where Matt talks about having goosebumps or a tingling skin around channeling, at least in The Dragon Reborn, are when he wakes up from being healed, he thinks to himself, healed. That meant they'd used the one power in him. The notion sent goosebumps marching across his skin, but he had known it would be done. So there obviously no one channeling around him, but, Matt talking about goosebumps around channeling. Then when Lanfear comes into the room, remember he gets visited by the Amyrlin and Lanfear, and everyone just comes to the room to go hang out.
Later, Arthur Hawkwing steps in. No, that was another.
Yeah. It's when he says, "Oh yeah, I suppose I will," to Lanfear. Celine's look sharpened. Friendliness sloughed off her face like an old snakeskin. Suppose I did not come to you like this, talk in this way for suppose, Matron Cawthon. She stretched out a slim hand. Her hand was empty and she stood halfway across the room, but he leaned back away from her hand as if she were right on top of him with a dagger. He did not know why, really, except that there was threat in her eyes, and he was sure it was real. His skin began to tingle, and his headache returned. Suddenly, tingle and pain vanished together, and Celine's head whipped around as if listening to something beyond the walls, and blah, 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 blah. So I think here, the tingling combined with the headache, I think means that she was channeling into him, right? It was not her just embracing it. She was doing something to him, and I think maybe even only causing a bit of a headache, not necessarily anything else nefarious, but she was certainly channeling into old Matt. And then when the Amyrlin visits him later, she goes, how are you feeling? The Amyrlin asked briskly as she put a hand on his head. Goosebumps covered his skin. Had she done something with one power, or was it being touched by an Aes Sedai that made him feel a chill? So I'm pretty sure she was delving him. She's, again, checking to see how much better he is, checking his fatigue, checking his general state. This is after they'd done the big healing, with Sir Angriel and stuff. So I think I'm happy with the idea. I mean, in my research, a lot of people on the internet still think that Matt might not be able to channel, but that he has the ability to learn to channel.
No, that's a possibility.
Which, would be this ultimate sort of cruel joke with his complete avoidance of anything related to the power. For him himself to be able to learn how to channel would be ironic.
Well, maybe his luck is something to do with a single strand of the Sidon that can wingle his way in there and flip the dice.
I don't. He'd be getting headaches. He'd be getting the channeling sickness. He'd be going mad.
Madder. That's exactly right. Madder.
Yeah. So I think we can put that one to bed. But okay, enough of this pedantic bullshit. Let's get on with the fun stuff. Woo-hoo. So previously on Blood and Ashes, the girls interrogate Joya and Amiko, but get no new information. So they must choose between finding Taim and intercepting whatever that plan was that Joya was relaying to them, or investigating Tanchico. Egwene and Rand agreed to be just friends, so Elayne swoops in. The girls also try to help Rand figure out how to channel or just learn something about how the male half of the source works, with little success other than learning that, he can sense when a woman embraces the source around him by getting the goosebumps. Rand threatens to hang some high lords. Lanfear shows up and tries to pitch Rand on the idea of ruling the world together, which he declines. Smart. The stone is attacked by what seems to be two opposing Trolloc forces, which we now know are those of Samael and Semirog, and Rand ultimately disposes of them using Kalandor. And then he ends that section with telling Moiraine, tomorrow I will tell everyone what I'm going to do. And that brings us to chapter 11, which is called What Lies Hidden. So why don't you start us off, Joe?
Rightio. Thank you, Moritz. All right, so we're back with Egwene, Elayne, and Nynaeve in, I think it's Egwene's rooms. And they need more info on Tanchico, so they're going to head to the World of Dreams to go investigate. Well, Egwene is, at least. So they've been doing some research and reading some books and looking at some maps, finding a good spot to land, so to speak. I don't know, arrive in Tel'aran'rhiod. And Egwene is going to try for the first time to enter the World of Dreams without the Tel'aran'rhiod, since she is now fully confident that she is a dreamer and that she should be able to do this without any Tel'aran'rhiod. Aviendha is there in the room as well, as she's now part of Team Kick-Ass, as they should be known. She is on the floor with her legs crossed. She doesn't do this whole chair thing. She never will. So she's cross-legged on the floor, and she's fully armed with her spears and her shields and her knives and everything else that she wants. Obviously, because of what has happened recently in the Stone of Tyr. So she's not going anywhere without her weapons. Through their research, they have discovered that the Panox Palace is where they want to be. That's where she wants to get in. And there's what basically is a museum inside the palace that is open to the public with all kinds of cool and interesting shit that we will delve into in a few moments. Well, we'll not delve, but we'll gloss over them. So, the opposite.
The opposite of delve.
Yeah. So anyway, they got to go scouting. We also find out some interesting info, some numbers for you as well. It's been 473 or 474 years, we don't quite know, since Corianne Nadell died. She was the last dreamer. So, I've always thought about Corianne being like, okay, a while ago, but not 470 years ago.
Yeah, same.
So that's it was a surprise to me. All right, so that's how long it's been since the Aes Sedai, since the White Towers had a dreamer. So here is Egwene. She's back. They have also recovered 2 of the 13 stolen Tel'aran'rhiod, and Elayne has actually channeled into them and worked, and she ended up in Tel'aran'rhiod. She went to Camelin, obviously. It's her home turf. So they know that those work, but that means, of course, that there's still 11 out there in the hands of the Black Aja. So we're going to pop now over straight into Tel'aran'rhiod. They put her to bed. She's going to access the World of Dreams without the Tel'aran'rhiod, and they're going to wake her up when the candle burns down to a certain mark. They've got it all planned. There's a lot of discussion there as well about should someone go with her. They've got all these extra Tel'aran'rhiod, and it's like, no, I'm the only one who knows how to do it properly. It's too dangerous, blah, blah, blah. In she goes. But before she goes, she's thinking about her dreams, and she's been having some dreams lately. I'm just going to go through them quickly. We can talk about them if you will. One of the dreams she's had is Rand as tall as a mountain, walking through cities, crushing them under his feet. I get a serious Godzilla vibe going through, yeah.
Firing laser beams from his eyes.
Technically from his mouth if he's Godzilla, but he's probably around there. Rand in chains. Is this the foreshadowing of him being captured and kept in that chest? Doubled up, perhaps, yes. Rand building a wall around himself, pretty obvious. Rand trying to cut people off. Aiel fighting each other, throwing away their weapons, and running away as if mad. All right, that'll happen soon enough. Rand is on his way.
Yes,
that is, he's on his way. Just give him a few pages. Matt wrestling a Sean-Chan woman who seems to have an invisible leash around his neck. Now, was he wrestling her?
Yeah, wrestling.
Wrestled her real good.
In this show, we call it canoodling.
Wrestling or canoodling her, who knows? But she has an invisible leash around his neck. He's saying he ain't going nowhere. Perrin as a wolf. She sees a wolf and she knows immediately it's Perrin. It is. We don't have to even argue about it. Fighting a man whose face is constantly changing. Thoughts?
Slayer.
Constantly changing between two people? I don't know. I thought Slayer, of course it would be Slayer as well, but if his face is constantly changing from one to another, I mean, that just gave me the impression that it was changing a lot into like multiple different people. But anyway, I mean, Slayer's the obvious choice. Pins for later.
I think what else could it be? Yeah. Pin?
Yeah. No, you can... I don't want to pin. We don't have to pin it.
Please, God, don't pin it.
Don't do it. All right. Slayer. It's Slayer. It's definitely Slayer. No need for pins. Gallad is
There's
another
a pin
dream
in
she
it
had.
now.
Oh, God damn
I
it.
can see Moritz's face. I know it. He's already pinned
Nah.
it.
No,
He's
I'm going to let that one slide.
Oh, I doubt it. Anyway, Gallad wrapped in white, wrapping himself in white as if a burial shroud. Him becoming a white cloak, obviously, because he even talks about it in a few chapters' time.
Yeah.
Gawain, his eyes full of pain and hatred. I suppose the division of the tower and everything it makes him do and makes him feel. I don't know.
He also blames Rand for Morgase's death. When he thinks Morgase is dead, he thinks Rand killed her.
That's right.
So pain of his mother dying, hatred for Rand for doing it. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Her mother weeping. I don't know. I suppose when we're away, our mothers always weep for us. Nothing specific.
Also about to be war in the Two
Whitecloaks.
Rivers. A lot of
Shit
reasons
is
to
coming.
weep.
Yeah. There's some weeping.
Women weep during wars. I've seen that a lot.
Men weep during wars. Everybody weeps.
True fact.
This is true.
Off to Tel'aran'rhiod we go. Enough of this. We've sorted it out. So off she goes. Blam. That she falls asleep at the drop of a hat. I wish I could do this. This is a great challenge she has. Oh, I need to go. She's gone.
Excuse me a sec.
I need to go get some info. She's in the Panox Palace. Yes, it worked. All that studying of maps and visualizing places. There she is. And we see all the artifacts. We see the big, what is obviously an elephant, 2 spans tall, whatever, all of that stuff. The skeleton that's been wired together. There's all kinds of things there. Artifacts, Quendiyar artifacts from the Age of Legends, blah, blah, blah. Certainly, many of them, or at least some of them, have to be to Ungriel or something along the lines. And Egwene, when she arrives, is dressed like Aviendha. She's dressed in the Candasaur, so she's ready for action. She's not dressed in her flowing dresses. But she quickly changes to something that Faile would wear. It's kind of a dress, kind of split for riding, so she's like in between, semi-active wear.
I like that she's copying Faile. Like, they haven't had much interaction, but she would have seen her and gone, "Ooh, yeah, that's practical. I like that."
Those divided skirts, very practical. So yes, she also embraces the source because she's not taking any chances, just in case. Because I mean, obviously, she thinks that the Black Aja are in that city, so could very well run into them. So she finds all these different artifacts. She sees the male Adam there, or whatever it's called. I just call it that. But it's made of like a dark metal, and she tries to reach out to it, and she feels pain. And what's the other thing she feels?
Suffering.
Suffering.
I don't know.
That's
They
probably
roll off
it.
the tongue together.
Pain and suffering.
They pair
is
well
what she
together.
yes. Yeah. Like a good steak and a red wine. So what?
It's cool. It's cool. You can see I want to say something. It's cool that like she's going to go investigate Tanchico to find like what is the thing, you know, like she knows the Black Arch are there to find some terrible weapon, and then she's like, "Oh, there it is." She doesn't know, but there it is. It's right there.
Exactly.
She comes back and says, "I haven't found anything." No, you did. You found the thing.
Go back. Someone tell her. Also, what she finds, more interestingly, because she kind of just glosses over that male Adam thing. Totally. Like, oh, this is crap. That doesn't feel good. Moving on. The key to what I pronounce as the Kuden Call, but is probably not pronounced like that at all.
You and me both.
I think it's pronounced like Choden something, and that sounds ridiculous to me, so I refuse to pronounce it that
Throat Wobbler Mangrove.
Yes. Indeed.
Monty Python joke, anyone? Anyone?
Yes, while it is pronounced Throat Wobbler Mangrove, it is spelt Choden Call. And anyway, it's broken in half. I didn't remember this at all, and I suppose someone fixes it later on.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a reject from when they made them, because I'm pretty sure the 2 that Rand has eventually are whole. And what does Egwene say when she finds it? Like it calls to her or something, but there seems to be something wrong with her.
Well, it's broken in half. So when she touches it, it kind of the power, she feels the power surge into her, but then in and out, and the little globe in the woman's hand of the statue flashes, flickers, and eventually she gets pain in her brain and she has to drop it. And she drops the statue and it shatters on the floor.
I don't think it's the one. I think
Yeah.
it is a failed experiment or something along those lines, because it seems to like almost work, and it's definitely not the one that Rand has later. Because I don't think people can fix Tel'aran'rhiod. I don't remember that
Later
at
on,
all.
doesn't Elayne
mean
have
anything.
that ability? She creates. I don't know. We are callbacks
Hmm.
here. We come. There's no way
Hmm.
to avoid this pin. So
No.
anyway, she drops it and it shatters on the floor. But of course, she's in the world of dreams. So when she looks again, it's back in its place and nothing is wrong with it. But interesting. I like it. So she heads out into the city to investigate. Obviously, that's why she's there. It's very ineffective running around this gigantic city, going door to door. There's got to be a better way to do this. Because she
Yeah.
gets up onto the top of a hill where there's some buildings. She overlooks the city and she's like, holy shit, this place is big. It's bigger than Camelin. So it's a mission. She's one person. She's got half a candle's time before they wake her up to go running around on foot looking for stuff. And she thinks to herself as well that she starts thinking about what Aviendha told her and about the Aiel and about the wise ones. And she's thinking about the wise ones. And in her next step she takes, she ends up in the waste. So she's been transported. Well, she transported herself all the way to the waste. And I like the fact that when she gets there, the heat immediately hits her as well. She can feel the searing heat. And she sees a lion crouching in the mountain somewhere in some hills or whatever, and a boar, and then a maiden of the spear hunting this boar. And she's looking at all of this, and she notices that the Aiel woman looks at her as well. So she freaks out, closes her eyes, and thinks back to Tanchico, where she appears again. So it's just a little flash. She enters, feels the heat, sees the scene, gets noticed, and then runs away again back to Tanchico to continue her futile and very ineffective search. She's running around the street. She's going door to door. She sees dogs, a pack of dogs, all different colors, loping through the streets. I don't know where this is going from, but she also mentions she sees pigeons. She sees rats when she enters one of the stables. They don't shy away from her. So there's a lot of animals running around in the world of dreams.
Yeah, but all of those animals, all dogs of different colors, is a straatbrok. It is those dogs
Pavement
that's
special.
gone feral. Pigeons are just city rats. Rats are just city rats. It's all
Sky
dark
rats.
one stuff. Sky rats and dirt rats.
But why are they in the world of dreams? Like, why are there no humans in the world of dreams, but there's like city animals everywhere? Are those dead animals?
Wolves are there.
Yeah, but wolves are special. Come on, Morris. Not straatbroks.
That's not gonna fly.
Yeah, don't know. Maybe they are dead animals that now live there.
All the dead rats.
I think it's a warning of how the city is actually under tainted control. It's
Perhaps.
Maybe
the spies of the Dark One wears many animal cloaks.
Very well put. Also, because she's holding on to the one power and she's looking around, she sees these faint cracks running all through the city, like, yeah, like, and she senses an evil in the city, which is par for the course nowadays. I mean, every city you go to is run by someone evil. There's some Forsaken in there. Do we know there's a Forsaken at this point in Tanchico?
I can't remember. I think there is. I mean, where does Mogedion start showing up?
I think it may be
Ibudar, Tanchico. Those things all blend together for me in my, age-addled mind.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to find answers with me. But anyway, she sees all these animals, and they wonder, and she wonders why they're in Tel'aran'rhiod, and she thinks, well, a wise one would know. Bam, she's back in the waste, and she fell through the air, so she's landed on her back, lying on the ground. That boar she saw earlier runs at her, but jumps over her. She's not completely killed, and turns out it's not really a boar anyway. It's some sort of weird Aiel waste animal that looks like a boar. And the Aiel woman is there again. Egwene changes her clothes to the Candasaur to kind of match her, to also just try and smooth things over with the woman, and tells her, like, look, I come in peace. You don't have to worry about me. And by the way, it's Amos. I pronounce it Amos. Moritz, you're Amiss?
Amiss.
Amiss? Something's amiss?
Yes, just like that.
Yes, it's just like that. All right. To me, it's always Amos. Anyway, it's Amos, by the way. I'm not going to drag this out. We all know it's Amos eventually. All right?
Cool.
She's there. And she is not pleased that Egwene has those kind of clothes on. So strips her naked. And then there's a little battle of let me show you my powers in the dream world, and turns her spears on her, changes her clothes, and there's a little bit of this and that, and a to and a fro. And Egwene decides, look, it's time to get the hell out of here again. This is not going well. And goes back to Tanchico. And just before she closes her eyes to concentrate, she sees another woman standing behind Amos with a blonde hair, long blonde braid, and a silver bow. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And she thinks just before she comes out, like heroes of the horn, or heroes of legend in the world of dreams. That's weird. I must have imagined that. Yeah, whatever, woman. You should be used to weird shit happening by now.
We know that the heroes of the horn live in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yes, we know.
So they're all there.
They're in the waste having a little perusal. They're going, what's happening over
on
here?
The wise ones.
What's all this then? Spying on the wise ones, for sure. By this point, Egwene has finally, realized that this running from door to door business is not going to work. And she remembers that, of course, and she sees a guy that's also come into the world of dreams who was in the sky, who fell out of the sky, and right before he splatters on the floor, he disappears. And she remembers, I have dreams where I'm flying all the time. Why don't I just fly over the city? And when I read this, I thought, that's a bloody marvelous idea. Not so. So anyway.
Embrace the source and fly over the city when you are looking for the Black Arja sisters who might be in the city.
Exactly.
I thought in the moment
Here
that was
I
a bad
am.
idea. Yeah. Check this out.
Check at me. You're looking for me? Here I am. So anyway, she starts flying over the city, having a look at everything, and then of course realizes, wait, this is a shit idea. If the Black Arja see me, if they're looking for me, I'm just announcing myself. So anyway, she goes back to land in the streets, and who is there in the streets waiting for her but old Amos? There are some introductions. She says who she is. She's of the Tardard Aiel. And she's also a little bit impressed with Egwene, and she mentions it. She says, look, much to learn you still have, but you have very much impressed me, and I think that you need to come back, or at least come to the waste and come and see me, because we can teach you everything that you need to know. And that's basically how the chapter ends. I know I have skipped over some points that other people are going to bring up now. No?
But that's awesome. Like, I mean...
Yes.
Also, I just looked it up. It's Amis.
Amis. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone's wrong.
I don't like it.
Pass.
It is darkness and pain that she feels over the
and
bracelet.
Pain and suffering, darkness and pain.
But there's one
same,
point
but
I want to see if you bring up this one thing that I picked up on that I want to test with you guys.
Test this.
We think.
Nothing. There's nothing you want to bring up?
No, I'm still...
The thing I'm talking about is a metallic circle with a 3-pointed star inside.
Oh, yes.
That Egwene from 10 paces away can sense pride and vanity. It's made of a metal she's never come across.
All right. I have an answer.
Go.
Mercedes-Benz symbol?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
A hood ornament from a Merc.
Exactly. That's from our time, and that's why she senses. What does she sense?
From
vanity.
10 paces away, she can sense pride and vanity.
Ooh, sorry to anybody out there who's driving a Merc.
I know. I thought, RJ, that's pretty harsh. Robert didn't drive a Merc, did he?
Well, I don't know. But anyway,
But cool.
No, that's what I thought as well.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, Moritz, Morgidian is in Tanchico.
Ah, okay.
There's the
there we
evil,
go.
and she is a whole lot of evil. I mean, when it comes to Forsaken, like she's up there, man. It's just like
that's an incredible qualifier to make. Like when it comes to Forsaken,
she's no Lanfear. That's
no.
Lanfear.
She's no Semirog. I think Semirog is the worst of the bunch. I mean, she's the sort of torture expert.
Yeah, but anyway, okay. But yeah, I just get like the thrills, as our listeners are now accustomed to that word, thinking about Morgidian.
Yeah, she reminds me of a spider. I don't know why. Her name.
She calls herself the spider.
Probably why.
Yes, you probably still half remember that from the last time you read the
burned
series.
into the back of my skull somewhere. She's the spider woman. Not that it's a good spider, bad spider.
I have a couple notes. Are you guys
Note
ready
us.
to indulge me? Gosh,
Go
I
for
feel
it.
like I'm being so verbose this episode, but I guess it's not actually new. Um, I'm so annoyed with Egwene. Just stop sulking already, okay?
Oh, there's a
You've
lot of
got a
sulking.
lot going for you. She says at one point, thinking about Rand and what he did to them, it wasn't fair he can do something like that, and I can't even see the flows. You can't see your flows either. It's not about being fair, all right? Also, because of his channeling, he will go mad. Okay, so just wind your neck in. It's not fair that he can do that. He's also going crazy, okay? And you can not see his flows and he can't see yours. So let's call it even.
That's
And
a little
being
bit
generous.
of when two people were hooked up and then they're not hooked up anymore. The smallest thing you kind of slip comment about, and you're kind of like, oh, you look fat.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that fits.
You look
for
fat.
Sure. Oh, she's put on weight, hasn't she? Egwene muses on how useful it would be to be able to slip into the Amelin's dreams and speak to her. You can.
Yeah, you'll get there.
You'll get there, but it's funny that she thinks about it. It's like, yes, that is a useful way to use your skills, and you can do that later.
Yes, because these pigeons are not working.
No, they mention them in these chapters, I think.
Yes.
There's also a lot of sort of references to Aviendha not wanting to be a wise one. You know, like every time she talks about Amis and, like getting a hold of you, she will drag you kicking and screaming. And it's like she's always talking about herself. And she gets very upset very quickly, like whenever the subject is sort of even hinted at, which I find funny because she could have been from the Two Rivers. She's so stubborn. She's just like fighting against her inevitable fate so hard.
There's a point where she's like, Amis will make you do this, but I am Fardaris Mai. And then later on, like four,
yeah, but that's
four
the
paragraphs
next chapter.
later,
You guys are jumping forward now, both of you.
There is reference to that in here as well.
Oh, okay.
And then
it happens multiple times.
Later on, you hear her mumbling under her breath again. I'm Fardaris Mai. It's like, we get it.
And I mean, Amis gets it. She used to be Fardaris Mai, and like I like that you get this. Aviendha paints her as this like fearsome leader. The other wise ones listen to her. Ruark listens to her. She speaks with a tremendous amount of authority. She used to be Fardaris Mai, so obviously Aviendha also has tremendous respect for her and everything. But in Amis's dreams, her own, she's Fardaris Mai again. She has to put up this big show of like, leave it behind, and you're a wise one now, and blah blah blah. But when she's in her own private dream, she's also a maiden again, just hunting and like experiencing the simple pleasures. I think she even makes herself look younger.
Yeah, something about
when
her face.
When she comes up to Egwene and she lets herself, she has got grey hair, and all of a sudden then she's a motherly figure.
But it's great that even this person that's put up as like the paragon of wise one authority in her own private dreams is still going back to being Fardaris Mai as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it from me. Should we keep cruising?
Let's do it.
Let's go. We got a lot to get through.
Yes, yeah, I know. And we're already rambling at every little bit. Chapter 12 is called Tanchico or the Tower? Willie?
Tanchico?
Help us decide.
Tanchico or bust? You got to choose. All right. Now, they unfortunately don't have clocks. Clocks is a rarity in that uncivilized time that they live in. So they mark the candle, and the candle has already 10 minutes ago been past its marker. And that's about how much time you need for Nynaeve to lose his shit. So she has bolted to get a pitcher of water to drown Egwene to wake her up. Poor Elayne has already shaken her out of her boots to no avail. And Aviendha is sitting on the floor, visibly anxious. And that's saying a lot for an Aiel. Let's just get that. For a maiden of the spear, she's worried. But anywho, Egwene's pulled back from the dream, and she is able to she gets up, she's soaked wet, sweaty. She just takes a moment to reflect and actually puts on some dry frocks, I suppose. Something that you'd call it.
Clothes.
And there's a real concern, obviously, from Nynaeve's side that she's doing, she's actually not trained enough for, and that she's going to lose herself in it, and one day she's never going to come back, or she's going to die. And for the first time, there's acceptance of the warning. She doesn't argue with Nynaeve, and Elayne sort of like visibly stands back, like she's expecting, okay, these two are going to go right back into it again, and the power struggle have leveled a little bit. I think they've all sort of understood that they want the best for all of them to at least as accepted posing as Aes Sedai and the Stone, that they get through it and they get there. So Egwene tells them about meeting the Wise One named Amis, and that she was told to go to the Cold Rock Hold. And with Aviendha hearing the name, she is visibly shaken, like, no. And Elayne notices it and asks her then, like, do you know this? Is this true? And she's like, yep. No, she used to be a maiden of the spear, Fast Ma, and she left the sisterhood and went to Rhuidean, and she's now a Wise One. And by the way, she's also Ruach's wife. She explains to her that she is her sister mother, or her sister mother Leanne is her sister wife to Amis, and everyone's like, "Come again?"
Huh?
And
Thanks for clearing that up.
We delve into sister wives at that point in time, and some of the girls' eyes go big because they are like, "What is this foreign concept of polygamy?" And Elayne is thinking, this might be my life.
Indeed.
Might have to go live in the West.
Might have to go and live in the West. So yeah, there's a bit of shock around that. But the seed is planted now in Elayne's head, so she's going to start stewing over it, which makes it easier for Rand to pick up 3 wives in the process. Egwene then asks Aviendha what type of woman is Amis, and she's like, she's as hard as mountains and as pitiless as the sun. She's a dream walker, and she will definitely be able to teach you. So that is kind of like, right, this is the right person then. This is someone that I need to go and see. So there's a general acceptance that Egwene does need to go for training. She must go to the Waste, and who better than Aviendha to take her? And also reference made again that Amis had said that Tanchico feels off. Like it's not, it's evil there. It's not right. This place feels very wrong. At that moment, there's a knock at the door without sort of anyone waiting, as it is with these Aes Sedai. They just barge in after a knock, and in comes Moiraine. And she announces that Amiko and Joya has been murdered. Let's say brutally murdered and unexplained. She explains to them that even though the guards did not leave their posts where they were sitting in their cells and stayed the whole time, they were found in their cells. Was it one or both of them that had their tongues nailed to the door?
Both of them.
Both of them. Tongues, and were their heads, were they like hanging off their... That's pretty rough.
They had their tongues nailed to the door before having their throats
cut. Roughly slit.
Yes.
Now, I would definitely, if I had any better sort of sense of who's around in the area, say that that's the work of Paden Fain, but we know he's very far away at this point in time, messing around in the Two Rivers. He's busy doing awful things to other people. So that's a big one. They ask whether it's grey men. Could grey men have done this? And Moraine's like, no, this is not the work of a grey man, and admitting that there's far worse evils that we might not even know about at this point in time. Which
Pause. Yes. Wow, that worked so well. I thought that it was a weird statement by Moiraine, considering that we have established that Fades can travel through shadow and could probably pop out there. Hello.
Yeah,
But I know who killed him.
I'm leaning towards Slayer, isn't it?
It is Slayer.
Is it Slayer?
Yeah,
because he's
he
popping
muses
up a
over
lot
it in some later chapter. Yeah,
Okay,
in another
cool.
chapter, in another book, he thinks about doing this.
Okay. Because it was like, I didn't go and look for it. I was thinking about it, and I said, "Oh, look, I'm just going to carry on reading." But for me, it was like the handiwork of Fain I was just like, yeah, but it's not him. That I can
because
definitely
it's
very
so
Spanish.
cruel.
Yeah.
So
And they
very.
talk here about how cruel it is, and Elayne makes a comment which you're about to get to, Vil, about like how it's not weird for the shadow people that follow the shadow to give an order like that to punish failure.
Yes, absolutely. And because I mean, this I'm going to throw a word in here that I absolutely love out of a movie. What is the symbology behind this? The symbolism behind it is that they had tongues that wagged, and therefore their
Yes.
tongues got nailed to the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Moiraine is obviously visibly angered that the Black Archer has escaped their justice in this, that she couldn't take the two of them back to the tower because over there they might have tortured them for answers, because we do know they torture Rand and put him in a box and chain him. So there goes that theory. But anyway, so Moiraine then says to them, all right, have you made a decision? Tanchico or bust? I mean the tower. And the girls look at each other without argument, and they are in full agreement and say, right, Elayne and Nynaeve is going to go to Tanchico, and I am going to go to the Waste. And she's like, the Waste? Like, yes, Aviendha will accompany me. We have to go, and they then explain to Moiraine the whole miss, everything that was going on there. And then at that, Moraine's like, okay, but pause. There's something else. And she pulls out a letter sent to her by name, which was sent a month ago already, before they were even in the stone, by a runner. Now, we know that Aiel can run pretty well, but this runner has run far and wide to take this letter from what I gather is like the Council of the Wise Ones, or what are they called? The Wise Circle?
Wise
I
ones.
don't know, just a group of wise ones.
What's the collective noun for a wise one?
A flock.
A monk guy. A sitting of wise ones. Anywho, that is now a letter that is sent from them, and it is so written by Amis, saying that there is a young woman called Aviendha who's fast Aimar, and give her the instruction, it is time to come to Rhuidean. It's time to go. And Aviendha is like, no. You can take Bane, you can take Chud, you can take whoever you want. I'm going to Chantik. I'm going in the opposite direction. And she's like, and then I was instructed to take this letter to Ruach and show him the bit that's applied to you so that he can make sure you come. And it's like at that point, she's like throwing spears out of the Kandasar. Not happy about that at all. But it is decided so that they will be going to, I want to say Rhuidean, but the Cold Rock Hold, to go and see Amiss so that Egwene can get her training. And we all know Aviendha is going to go through a process of becoming a wise one, which involves going to walking through the arches again. Or what's
the crystal columns.
Pillars.
Yeah, pillars or something like that.
But in Rhuidean, some Tel'aran'rhiod.
And that summarizes and wraps up that chapter.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, here's what you were saying, Vil. More of Aviendha, sort of like she flinches at the mention of Amish's name. You know, it's like, no, must run away.
I mean, she ran away.
Yeah.
It is
and wants to go further.
Indicative of these youngsters in the book series. Loyal, the 99-year-old Ogier, running away. Aviendha running away. Rand, Perrin, Matt, Nynaeve running away. There's a lot of running away.
There is.
And eventually running to the responsibilities. But yes, she'll make a perfect partner for them people that's always on the run.
Plus, she's a badass, so she can watch their back.
Oh, yes.
She's wanted to be a maiden ever since she was a child. Like, it's all she's ever wanted from her life, which is why she's so doggedly clinging to it. And does for, like, books, I think.
And I think this ties into that excitement that you had, Moritz, because you had read all of this when you sent out that exciting tweet about getting going. But this is where it all starts happening. This is now the true grit of it, people finding their colors, so to say.
Yeah. It's super exciting to me. Like the idea of, Egwene learning how to be a dreamer, meeting the wise ones, and just what she learns from the wise ones.
Oh,
Because it's her lessons from the wise ones that she employs in the White Tower after she's captured. That whole idea of not resisting pain, but embracing it and becoming one with it is what she does when she's sent for daily beatings and stuff in the tower. She goes to Sheriam study every day, and she just takes all her punishment on the chin and just doesn't even let anyone see that she has any has any effect from it. And that is straight up from the wise ones, and that's how she takes over the tower. Like, remember, like, is it in the first or the second book they talk about like sending a deposed Amelin or like a disgraced Aes Sedai to scrub pots because no one can rally behind someone that is sentenced to scrubbing pots again. And then that is exactly what Egwene does. She goes and they force her to scrub pots. She does manual labor, and she still amasses a following within the tower. Like all the novices and even the accepted later are like, whoa, maybe she really is the Amelin, like, it's so cool. And that is because of this stretch with the wise ones that she's able to
so
do
much
that.
learning that's coming.
Such good shit.
Often. Oh, yeah. Like, I'm getting excited now. I know we're going to read
now. What else did I have? When they talk about like who could have given the order for such a foul murder or punishment for Joya and Amiko, Elayne pipes up and she says, I can see the Black Archer doing that. I can even imagine either Leandrin or Joya giving the order for someone to be, have their tongue nailed to a door before having their throat slit. And Moiraine looks at Elayne and sort of gives her a look of like reassessing her, like, okay, like you've got a bit of like, you've got a strong stomach and you are seeing the world for what it is. Like you are picking up on exactly what people are capable of. And she sort of reassesses her, which is cool. I like it when, senior figures in the book give, even the slightest bit of credit to our young protagonists. Something in Amisa's letter irritated Moiraine. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was that she felt ordered around. Like, go show this to Ruach. Tell this girl to do this. Like, hey,
it's like a letter from the Emerald.
But she does it. Fucking wise ones. They get their way no matter what. It's so good.
There's only one person that can take on Amis, and that's Rock.
And that's probably like 50-50 as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put my money on him.
Okay. Should we keep rolling? God damn, we've got a lot of content to get through here.
A lot of content, a lot of time.
So then the next chapter is chapter 13 called Rumors. We joined Matt, who's sitting in a crowded tavern in the mall near the docks, and he's staring at his cup of wine, not really drinking it, but thinking about the attack on the stone that night. So this is later that same night of the attack, right? My note is, after the attack, he went to the pub.
Yeah.
Typical. But he's not really drinking. And he thinks back to the events of the evening, and we were in the previous episode saying, where was Matt in this whole attack? Like we hear about Perrin and Faile fighting and blah, blah, blah. And here Matt actually has sort of like he recounts the whole series of events in his own head. So he's thinking back to like how he was busy retrieving a knife from the body of a dead grey man, who he presumes was hunting him, because I mean they are sort of, grey men aren't foot soldiers, they are sent for targeted attacks. And then while he was doing this, he turns to run away, but he sees a Fade walking towards him, and he throws a knife at the space where a Fade's eye would be, and he's saying at like 30 paces, which is about 30 meters. Obviously he would have hit an eye 4 times out of 5. Like he was pretty sure that the knife was flying true, but the Fade, without even flinching, just like knocks it out of the air with its sword. And I was like, yes, okay, these Fades are super badass. And the Fade says to him, time to die, horn sounder. So this Fade knows that Matt has blown the horn of Valyr. It must have come out somehow, because who actually knows? I mean, it's the friends. Verin?
I think Lanfear knows.
I'm sure the Dark One knows.
Lanfear was in the mix the whole time when they were traveling there with Celine.
But they hadn't blown it yet. That's only blown at the end of that book.
Yeah, but she was there. She was around.
I guess, yeah, she was. I mean, she comes to
Remember,
see
at the
Rand
end of the
after he was
battle, she
stabbed by
comes
the
to see
staff.
Rand
Yeah.
and heals him,
Yeah.
or half heals him.
Well, point being, the Shadow knows that Matt.
Mm.
Actually, Celine says to him as well in the tower. He knows that you've blown it, so the Shadow is going to try and kill you. And Matt goes, "Wait, what? Who's trying to kill me?" So I think she was alluding to the fact that Ishamael knows, and if he knows, then obviously all his dark friends know. So anyway, Matt backs away slowly from the Fade, pining for his staff or a bow or something else other than just knives against the Fade with a sword, when a dozen Trollocs appear and pile on the Fade and lose half their number killing it, but they do kill the Fade. And one Trolloc actually looks at Matt after the fact and literally licks its wounds, like it's licking a massive gash on its own arm. It's just so gross, but cool. Thanks, RJ, for that detail, just hammering that home. And it looks at him, and then it just barks some like guttural orders, and then it trots off. And Matt cannot make sense of this. He's just like, what? They're saved by bloody Trollocs? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And while he's sort of having these thoughts, he looks down and he notices that with his wine, he's been dipping his finger in his wine and drawing on the table, and he's drawn a doorway with his finger in wine. And he sort of like angrily and hastily sort of scrubs it out. He, at that stage, also feels an urge to just return to the stone. Like he's constantly referring to this sort of the pulling of the pattern on him. But then he hears a scrap of conversation from a table nearby, where I think it's a Lugarder is basically saying that Logain was a more formidable dragon than this dragon. Even Masim in Saldea made the sun stand still, which is, like Taim is from Saldea and Masima is in Gildan.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like he's sort of like blended the two, Taim and Masima, into a name, Masim.
Yeah.
And Matt's sort of like eavesdropping on their conversation when he notices that he's drawn the doorway again, without thinking. He's like, oh, fuck. He rubs it out again. But then he hears a very familiar name come up from another conversation. And he walks over to what seems like a Kandori merchant and sort of odd assortment of compatriots at a table busy having a conversation, talking about the Two Rivers. So Matt comes over and he starts, asking them some pointed questions about it. And the merchant is basically saying he reckons there'll be no tobacco from there this year on account of the Whitecloaks that have entered the area hunting the Dragon Reborn and a dark friend with yellow eyes. And Matt starts getting a bit pushy and slightly aggressive in his questioning, but the people sort of let him go because apparently they take him for a lord because of his dress, like a young lord, and they even make a comment later like, you know what these young lords are like. And we have heard Matt talking to the young lords and like just how gross they can be, so they probably do throw their weight around a bit. So they're actually quite like, they're very deferential to Matt and offer him like a barrel of tobacco, for free and that sort of thing, just trying to stop him from getting angry. So he's basically just pushed them for this information about what's happening in the Two Rivers, and when he's gotten as much out of them as he thinks he's going to get, he tosses them an Andoran crown, telling them that drinks are on him. And he just basically storms out into the rain wearing some other random person's clogs. He just put on whatever clogs he could get and he just walked out the door.
I thought that was maybe something that they just do there. I mean, how do you know which clogs are yours?
Yeah, totally. In a crowded bar. I mean, yeah.
Well,
If
I think
they
the
fit,
bigger
they're
question
yours.
there is who would like to claim ownership of muddy blocks of wood? Like, that's my block of wood, bitch. My bloody muddy
Okay,
block of
let's
wood.
spend the next 20 minutes scraping the mud off them so we can determine this conclusively. But he's basically, like, when he gets to the stone, he runs the whole way to Perrin's room, where he finds Perrin busy packing, and correctly deduces that Perrin has also heard the rumors about the Whitecloaks, which Perrin confirms. And he asks Perrin if Rand knows about it, which Perrin says he does. But Perrin says that Rand was sort of muttering to himself, he said he'd do it. He said he would. I should have believed him. Who do you think he's talking about there?
Faile. Faile said he'll go to the Two Rivers. He'll kill everyone.
When Faile said that to Rand was before Falme, right? Because he threatened him, if you don't meet me at Toman Head, I will go do this thing.
Yep.
At that point, he had no affiliation with the Whitecloaks. So now Rand hears a rumor about Whitecloaks hunting dark friends and a yellow-eyed dark friend and the Dragon Reborn in the Two Rivers. How does he come up with Faine if it's Whitecloaks?
Because it's the only logical thing.
Yeah, like those two the Dragon Reborn and Perrin.
Maybe he knows the hatred that Faine has for him, and yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a leap for Rand.
It's built on shaky ground, but that's the only thing I can think of is that it's who else could it be?
We're not going to find a nice solid black line from point A to B to connect the two thoughts, but I thought it was like, okay, cool. So that's a bit hazy to me. But anyway, see, my pedantry does not only apply to you guys and myself; it's also to Robert.
Yes.
So Matt and Perrin discuss going back, like sort of trying to figure out, like, do we go? I mean, Perrin's made up his mind, but Matt is struggling with his whole, being drawn to Rand. Like I said, it was just mentioned in this chapter that he's very strongly drawn to Rand, and that like he feels like even sitting in the tavern, he's feeling the urge to go back to the stone to be near him. But Perrin says that he also feels that, but he is resolute. Perrin is definitely going back because he knows that the Whitecloaks know his name. And if they are in the Two Rivers, they're going to find his family, and his family is in danger. And no amount of Ta'veren pattern string pulling is going to stop him from going home and protecting his family. So Perrin tells Matt as much that he's definitely going to go back. So they sort of say a difficult goodbye because Matt knows he's not going to go back. Matt says to Perrin, "Look after my family," but not before Perrin says to him that, cheers, Matt. The lights send you pretty girls and fools who want to gamble.
That's exactly what the light would do.
Yes. A great way to send him off. And that's when Matt then says to Perrin, like, look, please just make sure my family is okay. So this is a really, really tough decision for poor old Matt.
But he's not able to make a decision.
Yeah.
You
can't even say it.
He doesn't really have a choice.
So he's sort of on his way out of Perrin. He's already feeling a bit like put out now. Like this has been a lot. There's been the attack tonight. Then there's this news that his family is also in danger. And he then runs into Elayne. And he greets her with a grin, but she doesn't even glance at him. So he just snaps at her. This is the leader of Moiraine, right? So our kids have come a long way. So he goes to her, "Are you deaf as well as blind, woman? I'm not a carpet to walk over, and I distinctly heard myself speak. If I pinch your bottom, you can slap my face, but until I do, I expect a civil word for a civil word." And she looks at him. She doesn't say anything. She sort of looks him up and down, and then she turns away and she walks off, muttering to herself something along the lines of, "Too much like me," like.
She was thinking about it for a second.
It's like, could I? He is what? No, he's too much like me. So she recognizes that in him, which is cool. Matt thinks to himself, that's what you get from people like Elayne and Elayne, nobles who thought you were dirt unless you had a palace and bloodlines back to Arthur Hawkwing. Point of order, Matt. You have bloodlines straight back to King Aemon of Manetheren, so
Exactly.
you're lumping yourself in with those people. But I also, just in this moment, like he sort of like riles against Elaine's nobility often, like he has in the past, like he sort of, but they have this odd little friendship. Like they actually interact quite a bit across the books, and like Matt brings the Band of the Red Hand to Camelin, and he's, like he's quote unquote saved her already once, and I just like how he treats her and thinks that she expects to be treated in a certain way, and she never does. Like Elayne is like the most chill noble in the whole story. She's the daughter heir of Andor, and she is super chill, and Matt just like keeps quoting her as being a noble snob.
Matt's actions and Matt's words often don't tie up.
Yeah,
he says a
polar
lot,
opposites.
and he's polar opposite, outspoken, but he still does the noble and right thing 90% of the time.
To the point where he lies to himself. Like, I'm no bloody hero, as he's saving someone. So he stalks off, and he flips a coin in the air and catches it on the back of his hand to help him with this decision, to help him make a decision, which I didn't know was that because he's already said goodbye to Perrin, that decision couldn't be about going back to the Two Rivers or staying with Rand. I thought maybe the decision was whether to go through the doorway or not.
Yeah,
since he'd been drawing it on the table. Because it feels to me like here he's already he knows he's not going. He said to Perrin, "Please take care of my family," and decided not to go. So when he looks at the coin, he curses loudly because obviously the flip is go through the doorway, because he does end up doing it, and he sort of curses loudly about like burn Aes Sedai and Rand for getting me in this trouble and everything. And he looks up and there's a servant standing next to him with like wide eyes holding a tray, and he takes this like gold Toph crown and he just tosses it onto the guy's tray as well. It's like, yeah, have a coin, like he's throwing money around left, right, and he's already paid for drinks in the pub. He's giving the servants money. He's in a constant let's call it a state of flow with his cash. It's never going to stick with him for too long.
He can always make more.
Yes, exactly, and he knows that. So that's
and
cool.
it's been gold crowns. It's not coppers or silvers. It's gold crowns.
No.
He only deals in gold.
Andorans and like Tarvalon gold,
the heavy
crowns.
ones.
Yeah. And then he does one of those things that we just talked about. Like he walks off, and he calls the servant. Yeah, like he refers to himself when he gives the coin to the servant. He goes, "Yeah, take this. It's from the world's biggest fool," or something like that. As he stalks off, like already cursing his own decision that he knows he's going to go through with. So he's like riling against himself again. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, basically, or definitively, because you've stopped talking.
Yes. Anything else?
Yeah, anybody? You're pretty much covered.
Yeah, look, usually when I do my summaries, I stop in the points where I have something to say. So I don't have like a list of notes like I do for your chapters at the end of my own, because I stop and I talk about them. But yeah, just basically Matt deciding not to go to the Two Rivers, and us finding out that Perrin is going back to the Two Rivers.
But the pull on Matt is so intense. And we see this now through these chapters. This Ta'veren pull to Rand is so strong that Matt can't even say the words to go home. He can't even physically say it. So it's he is also becoming. He doesn't particularly know what Rand is doing, but he knows that he's not supposed to go home. Like that, he knows for sure. He's got to just mull around it, and I think that's the coin flip that is kind of deciding now. Am I just going to take this leap? And again, I'm not going to speak to Moiraine like I was told to about this. I'm just going to bloody do it.
Yeah. And then that he's pushed even further after he goes to the Finns, which is exciting. So let's get to that. But before we do, the next chapter is chapter 14, called The Customs of Mayene. And I think that is you, Joe.
It is indeed. Oh God, I hope it's me. I made notes for this chapter. All right. So Elayne is working her way through the three rivers, the Two Rivers boys, the three Two Rivers boys. She's tried Rand. That ended badly for her. She flirted with the idea of Matt very briefly. And now we join, all that's left is old Perrin, and we join him in his room now after Matt has left. He takes off his shirt to have a little quick rinse because it's hot as hell down in the south. And everyone's always soaked in sweat. When the door opens and old Elayne just invites herself in, why don't you? Yeah. She asks him if he's leaving because she sees like he's getting packed. And he's like, yep, I'm leaving in the morning. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm also leaving. This place is no bueno. I don't like being here. Bad things are happening. I'm going back to Mayene. And Perrin's like, okay, great. Why are you telling me this stuff? Why are you in my room giving me this information? And she's like, so you can tell the Dragon Reborn. And he's like, tell him yourself. It's like this Two Rivers. What the fuck are you? They don't take guff from anyone. And he's telling her, like, why don't you just give the message to a servant or an Aiel or something? And she looks at him and asks incredulously, you will not do as I ask? And he's like, and his answer is, no. Haven't you been listening to me? Just straight up. I just love it. I absolutely love it too. So she's failed with Rand, Matt, and now Perrin as well wants nothing to do with her. And then he notices that in the darkness of the room, because she's blinking and he realizes, oh shit, yeah, of course, I can see perfectly fine with this one candle, but other people may not. And what he can see is that she is inspecting the goods, so to speak. She's looking him up and down like a prize horse in the Two Rivers. And there's even a horse.
She is sussing out the beef.
She is sussing. She's sussing the prime beef.
Grading the beef.
Yes, it's grade A in her eyes.
Prime beef.
Next T-shirt. So he's like, well, she asks him, well, where are you going if you're leaving? And she said, well, I'm also going home, back to the Two Rivers. So now everybody knows where everybody's going. Glad there. There's a thing where she's like, when she's eyeing him up and down, she tosses her hair, and Perrin doesn't get turned on by it. He's like, well, that looks like a horse I used to know in the Two Rivers.
She throws her head like a mare.
Like a mare. Like it's a mare he used to shoe back in the Two Rivers. So like all her tricks are just failing on him horribly.
Totally.
He's just a fool, really. Wool-headed sheep herder. And then, of course, at this point, Faile enters the room. She's half in the middle of the conversation, just bams the door open and stops dead. If looks could kill. Daggers. Elayne completely ignores her, which makes things worse. And she's obviously doing it on purpose. She's fully aware of who she is and why she's there. And Elayne runs her hand up Perrin's shoulder, up his arm and onto his shoulder. And Perrin thinks for a second, like, holy shit, she's going to grab my head forward and try and give me a kiss. Because it certainly looks like that. But her last words are, just remember, I always get what I want. Before she sweeps out of the room past Faile, still ignoring her. And I'm thinking, you don't always get what you want. You tried with Rand, and I remember that. It didn't go well.
I've never seen you get what you want.
Not yet. I don't know. Maybe it comes later. Because as far as I remember her journey, she gets very little of what she wants.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So once she leaves, he looks at Faile and he's just like, oh, here it comes. And there's nothing. There's just silence from her. She does not explode. What is that trollop doing in this room and blah, blah. Nothing. So that confuses the shit out of him because, yeah, he is a bit of a dumbass. So she's come to tell him about the rumor about the Whitecloaks because she's also doing her investigations. But of course, she looks at him and the packing and, well, obviously, you've heard the rumor too that the Whitecloaks are in the Two Rivers and they're looking for a man with yellow eyes. So never mind. I see you already know. Faile mentions, of course, that, you know, if you're going, it's going to take you weeks because it must have taken weeks for the rumors to get down here. And then it's going to take you weeks to get back. And he's like, no. He's going to go with Loial and he's going to take him through the ways. Of course, she's disturbed by this. Being a royal herself, she's been educated about the ways. She knows the history. She blabbles off like, oh, it's been 200-300 years since the last person used them, blah, 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 because of the Black Wind and all this crap. So she knows all about it. But she's like, well, you know, whatever. I'm keen for an adventure. And here's where the stupid shit starts, as we all know. The boring back and forth, I'm going, oh, no, you're not. And Perrin feels the need to protect her. So in trying to protect her, he's going to hurt her. As you do when you're, 19 or what hell is he now? 20 years old. I'll give him that. So she's adamant that she's going with. So when she's during this argument, her anger bubbles up and she does make a quip about Elayne being in the room. And maybe he should be with Elayne or whatever. So Perrin uses this opportunity to make this stupid remark of his and to try and push her away so she would be safe anyway. To protect her.
That old chestnut
that never works and doesn't in this case either. No. So and then he tells her something along the lines like, you know, like, oh yeah, Elayne's very attractive. Any man would be happy to be with her. And like maybe after I've come back from the Two Rivers, I'll go to Moiraine and for a little holiday, you know, like I'll say, you fucking dumbass. This does have an effect on Faile, and she is just dead silent, shooting daggers out of her eyes at him. He feels like a dickhead, which he is. But he thinks he's done the right thing, and she just storms out and slams the door behind her. And he wants to tell her that he's doing it because when he goes back, he expects to die. Like he's going to go back to fight these Whitecloaks to protect his family, but he's murdered Whitecloaks, so they're going to kill him. He's going to sacrifice himself and just say, leave Two Rivers alone and kill me instead.
Yeah.
But of course, he feels he can't tell her this. Well, technically, they have really only been together a few months. It's new in the relationship. You know, there's boundaries. You've got to let these things evolve. They're not married yet.
Is it months?
I think so. It must be months.
Not even months. Weeks.
Months? Look, 2 months is 8 weeks.
they only admit their feelings for each other when Perrin saves Faile from the
it must
hedgehog
have been
trap,
weeks, yeah.
which is the same night as Rand taking Calandor. He's only been in the stone for 2 weeks
Yeah.
and 3
So
days.
it's not even a month. Because they took that trip down the river on the boat together. So that must have taken a while.
Yeah, but she was just sweet on him, but he wasn't sweet on her at all at the
Look,
time. Well, he was,
no,
but
no,
he
no,
wasn't.
no.
He
Yeah,
was
look, just
sussing
you
it.
didn't admit your feelings, but you started.
Yeah, beefy boy is a thinky boy. It thinks a long time.
I wish I could translate Jody's knowing look into audio format for the
And a little
listeners.
twiddling of the fingers.
Yes.
You know what I mean. Everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nobody needs to see my face to know. All the people listening to this have read the books. You know what's
They
going
know.
down. You know. All right. So back to the story, because now we're outside the hall. And Faile is on the warpath now. Fuck that bitch. So she hunts down Elayne, finds her like 2 hallways down. Has an argument. Her words out of her mouth are, Perrin Aibara belongs to me. And Elayne is just cool as a cucumber, which makes Faile even worse and even more angry. They have some words, and then they have some knives, and then they have some judo, which is, what's happening lately. Apparently, Elayne is no, maiden in distress. This woman knows how to handle herself. Faile pulls out a knife. Elayne grabs her wrist and judo throws her across the room and disarms her at the same time. Because being the ruler of Mayene, right there next to Tia, you got to learn to protect yourself from assassins, which is exactly what was taught to Elayne. So she can really know how to defend herself.
Pretty cool detail that I had not remembered at all.
No. So, and just as things are about to get interesting, because now Elayne is ready for a fight, she's got a knife. Faile has several knives all over her person. She's also got her knives out. And just as it's about to get interesting, old Ruach comes and ruins it all, and stepping in between them. He comes out of nowhere, as Aiel tend to do, and just steps in between them and grabs them both by the wrists and disarms them instantaneously with no effort whatsoever. And tells them, have you not seen enough blood tonight? Like, what the fuck are you two doing in the middle of the hallway with knives out? So he's disarmed them, obviously, and Faile's thinking at this point, like, I'm going to fucking get him. Like, I'm going to twist now. I've got my fist ready, my left hand, and I'm going to just get him in the ribs. And as she swings, he just dances out of the way without even looking at her, just kind of like shifts, whoop, whoop, and she misses him, and he's out of the way. Because, look, this is Ruach you're talking about. You don't punch Ruach in the ribs. This is not what happens.
No, you can't.
So he decides to treat them like the children they are behaving like, and he sends Elayne to her room and tells her she's not allowed to come out. He will have breakfast sent to her. She goes to her room and she stays there. She's grounded now, at least for a day. Elayne will not be treated like a child. And then Ruach says to her, like, look, if you don't go now, I'm going to repeat in front of Faile our first conversation that we ever had together. Now, refresh my memory. What was this conversation?
We didn't see it, but I bet you it had something to do with her being in Rand's room the night of the Bubble of Evil.
That's what I figured.
He probably went and had
Yeah, I don't recall a conversation between them two, so it's something happened off screen.
It's off page, yeah.
All right, so yeah, okay, so that's what I figured. So that immediately makes her eyes grow large, and she's like, fine, okay, whatever. So she marches off to her rooms. Love it, Ruach. And then Faile is still dangling there. He's still holding her wrist, and she's like, can you let me go as whatever? So he's like, fine as well, and you too. And she looks at the knives, because now he's taken Faile's knife and Faile's other knife from Elayne. And she's like, those are mine. He's like, no, her punishment is to go to her room with no dinner. And yours is you forfeit these knives. They're now mine. Thank you very much. Love it.
These are now my knives.
Yeah, my knives. Thank you very much. And what are you going to do about it? You're not going to get them off me. So anyway, he sends her on her way as well, and Ruach leaves, and as he's leaving, she's thinking to herself, we get a little inner monologue that how much Ruach reminds her of her father. And one of the things her father used to say as well was that was something about an expression called an Ogier's oath, like Ogiers never break their oaths, which tickles a little idea she has in her brain. And she's like, haha, it's like laughing out loud. More of this maniacal laughter in hallways in the Stone of Tyr. as she puts into action step 1 of her new plan, and that is how the chapter ends.
Because Perrin flapped his gums about getting loyal to take him through the ways.
Shut your mouth, Perrin. That couldn't have been better.
Loose
advice.
lips sink ships.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you. So now, if Perrin had just taken her with, but anyway, you guys are going to get into those chapters now.
Yeah.
I'm glad they weren't my chapters because I fucking hate that shit.
Ruark also, doesn't he, when he sends Elayne off, doesn't he say, I'm going to count to 3 and starts counting and she runs off? It's so good. Such a dad move.
As 3 dads, we know.
Yeah.
We're going to appreciate
we
it.
recognize. Yeah. And he also recognizes that they are Faile's knives. He never asked, like he just assumes they're hers because what does he say? Like she has other weapons at her disposal or something like that. But
Yes.
he just deduces. He is just so good. You gotta love Ruark, eh? He's like a more jovial Lan.
Yes, he is. That's what their little relationship is.
Yeah.
He'll teach Lan some levity. There's also a point there where Faile thinks as well, like when she's ready to attack Elayne, like Elayne looks like she's going to use her hands, even though she's got the knife. She's not going to use it. Like that's not her weapon of choice. She is a bare knuckle boxer. She is, she uses her hands in a fight. It's
some
throws,
elbows,
and
some
knocks,
knees
elbows,
in the
Muay Thai stylings.
That chapter's just sowing the seeds for the Perrin, Faile, Elayne dynamic.
Love triangle thing that dominates several books from now on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I wonder how much space on the page it will actually occupy, and if we have sort of blown it up over the years as that one annoying thing that kept happening repeatedly. I'm gonna keep an eye out and see if it's deserving of its derision.
I'm already annoyed by it, and nothing's happened.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
It's you might be right, Moritz. Like probably like 5 lines.
I'm annoyed by Elayne, like no doubt, because we are invested in the Perrin-Faile relationship for some reason, because they are also painful at this point. Right? And the chapter we'll do in 2 chapters' time is also just like, oh God, fine guys, do you have to be so petty? But yeah, Elayne then also trying to like weasel her way in there in some pretty conniving ways, if I can remember correctly. It's a distraction that we don't need from like the true story that's actually happening here. Okay, let's keep going. We've got 1,000 chapters to do tonight.
All right.
Chapter 15. Oh boy. Into the doorway. Take us to, what is it? Solheim, I think, is the land of the Finns. Willem.
That is true. Yes. Matt has tossed that coin. He has made the decision and he finds himself in the belly of the stone. Knows where the door is from the descriptions that Egwene gave him, and doesn't even open the door. He just kicks the door in, which is so old and so brittle that it just breaks. And you can see there's some recent footsteps in the dust and all kinds of old things over there. Glances over them and he sees the red stone doorway. And Matt thinks, all right, well, this is it. Why am I whispering? He is very nervous being down there. He realizes he's got nothing, but he jumps at rats that's scuttling in the corners. And he just takes the plans and says, all right, scrapes a bunch of stuff off a barrel and puts the lamp down. And he steps in, and it sounds like that audio noise that you get at the beginning of a movie where they do the whole 3D experience. And all of a sudden he is in a circular space. There's no right angles or corners. Everything is round. Everything is always got a curve or a corner on, no corner, curves and circles and whatever. So he is then met by someone, and he thought this is a interesting fellow, and realizes, no, but this is not a man. Draped in yellow cloth, very slender, very long, eyes with slits and scaly skin. And he's like, okay, cool. And they say, cool, not cool.
That's the
But it
best
says, it's been a long time, yet the seekers come again for answers. And says to follow him. And as he's following this person, he is looking out of the sort of windows. And then in one instance, a spire in the background is very far, and then it's really close. And he knows it's the same thing because of the specific tree that is there. And he wants to, through all of this, ask questions. And he starts like, why? No, and where? And he blocks himself. It's like, no, can't. This is my 3 wishes. You can't wish for 3 more. You can't wish for nothing. You only got 3. You got to do your 3. I'm not going to be angry, but he's getting angry. He gets led to 3 more people sitting on sort of pedestals. What you want to turn? It's all everything spirally, curly, curvy. And they again also say it's been a long time, and thank you for honoring the agreement, not bringing any light, no iron, and no music instruments, or iron music instruments, however you want to say it, which I
Thom
really
would
don't
not
understand.
Be welcome there.
No, Thom wouldn't make
knives
it in.
everywhere, flutes.
But Matt got in, and Matt then realizes when they speak, saying, right, you got your 3 questions, that 2 of them are female, 2 of them, whatever they are female, one's male. And he decides, okay, cool, let's just do this. Should I go and help my people off the bat? Thinking about the 2 rivers. And the answer's just like, no, go to Ruidian. And he's like, what the Ruidian? What? I've got nothing to do in the way. It's like, and he gets angry. Like, he's not liking the answers he's getting back from it.
He had done so well up till then to like not ask frivolous questions, and now he just lets go.
He loses it. And he gets a little bit pushy, and then it's like, well, why must I not go to Ruidian? And it's answered like, after the first answer, the bell tolls, like the place starts shaking. And they're like, ask, just get it done with. Like, it's a lot of tension. Something's obviously not going right in there. Something is, the world is shaking. It's as if the dream is collapsing in Inception. But he asks his second question, why mustn't he go to Ruidian? And it's like, well, if you go, you will die. Yeah, why must he go to Ruidian? It's like, if you go, you will die. And
if you don't go, you will die.
So if you don't go, you will die. Why must I go? Because if you don't, you will die.
Yes.
And again, Matt isn't liking this, and he's just losing. He doesn't get the answers. He clearly wants a different answer. He thought it's going to be easy. And the third question eventually gets, well, why will I die if I don't go? And then you will die because you would have sidestepped your fate, and your thread will drift on the wings of time, and those that don't want your fate fulfilled will kill you. And he is now, with his Ta'veren nature, adding in his luck nature into that. He doesn't now. Bells have tolled and shit is shaking, and you must get out of here. People are now coming to grab him. But he gets a third answer with a third question in with 3 more answers at the same toll.
A fourth
question, yes, sorry. He gets his 4th question in because he's now angry and his luck is working in overdrive. And he bolts out at them like, well, what is my fate? What is my fate? And they give him, your fate is to marry the daughter of the 9 moons. To die and live again. To live once more, a part of what was, to give up half the light of the world to save the world. And we'll obviously know what all of that means. He has to go to Geridian to get his memories from his past life. He's going to be killed, which he does. It's Ravin that kills him.
Yes.
Yeah, Ravin kills him.
He's killed twice.
Camelin. He hangs himself, but I didn't know if that was referring to the hanging.
He doesn't hang himself. The Aelfinn hang him.
Aelfinn hanging.
These are the Aelfinn?
Aelfinn.
The Aelfinn are the ones that he meets when he goes to the doorway.
To Ruidian. Yeah. So he was killed in Camelin by Ravin. and then Rand balefire Ravine, which undid his doings, and he came back to life. We
A
all
couple
know
people.
him.
I think Aviendha was also killed in that attack.
Yeah, that was a big one. He marries Tuon, as we know, and he loses an eye.
Half the
Just
light.
like that.
Half the light. So
I don't remember him
Matt
getting
then-
killed in Camelin at all. This is all news to me. Even now that you've mentioned it, and I'm trying to think back, no memories.
I didn't remember that it was Matt. I just remember Aviendha, and I remember really being bummed about her. But I think Matt was there as well. We'll throw it in the
I
fullbacks for
always
next time.
thought that the dying was his, and because he wore the scarf, was him
That's what I
getting
thought.
hung. The hanging after the Aelfinn. Then Matt, then at that stage now, is like, look, buddy, you've had one extra question with 3 extra answers. Like, you got to get out of here. This place is imploding. And they throw him out. Like, they're so eager to get rid of him. They chuck him out, and he falls out back in the dusty room. And he wants to go straight back in and dives into the doorway, but dives into the barrels on the other side. And he's furious. Matt is spewing at this point in time. And as he's busy spewing and swearing, out steps a boot out of the archway, and oh, hello, Rand. Also, oh, hello, Matt. Puts away his, again, still going with the laser sword. I mean, his power sword. But yes, they having a quick discussion. Is like, oh, well, did you also get answers and talk about the 2 rivers real quick? And then, oh, here comes Moiraine. She's like, you fucking idiots. Like, what? Who told you? Which one of them was this that told you? Like, I'm going to bloody skin those girls. And Rand is like, well, if you read books, you get information. And Matt's like, yeah, read books. Read books.
I read some books too.
I read some books too. But he thought about it like, you know what? After they bullied me like that to get that letter back and held me with power, maybe it's time that Moiraine gives them a bit of their own medicine. Maybe I should dob them in. But he decides, like, okay, hopefully she won't ask what the book was that he read. But they both sort of get away with it. And she asked them if they understood their interpreter. And Rand is like, it was really hard. It was like speaking to an old book. And Matt's like, what? What interpreter? I just spoke to them. Meanwhile, so Matt was blabbing in the old tongue all the way through that, and they were speaking to him in the old tongue. So he's like, he's gone too far. But Moiraine knows he's had his little old tongue spiels in the past. So that's obviously now really starting to play good in him. And she decides, well, bugger this. I'm out of this dusty little hole. She makes a little nice light ball for herself and walks out. And Rand's like, okay, well, I'm getting out of here too. He makes a fireball. And Matt's like, fuck those hoes.
Direct quote from the book. And Matt says, fuck
he
those
gets
hoes,
his
and
lamp.
leaves.
So yeah, that's obviously there is a lot of significance to this episode in the archway, in the doorway. Matt, we find out so much about what is going to play into his character. And we don't learn anything what Rand at this stage. Later on, it will come out about his questions that he asked them. And I know nothing of what Moiraine asked him. And for me, that's still very cloaked in secrecy. I can't remember anything.
I think... Oh, fuck, here I go. I think...
Edit this out, stop.
Moiraine learns something about what she has to do with Lanfear. About her own sort of fate, going through the other doorway with Lanfear. But that's the only thing that I can think of. And also
something about Thom.
That's like my instinctive. I think so.
Thom, I think, was in there. When they dive into, when she tackles or power wrestles Lanfear through the other arch.
Rugby tackle,
power wrestle, cadoodles. They break it. They blow it up with it because they were channeling at the same time.
Yeah. Something happens to it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been on Earth for thousands of years, and you just fuck it up. Yeah.
Well, she took out her Forsaken, so that was cool. Only for it to be resurrected and back in the game, and Moiraine is out.
So all for nothing. Great.
Life is cruel. So yeah, these are the Aelfinn that was visited with their little snaky, hissy voices and their little slitty eyes.
I love how Rand is dealing with Moiraine here. Like, he is calm and collected, and when she goes, "So what did they tell you?" He goes, "What did they tell you?
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me? Cool, me neither." Like, just exasperating her. You can tell she's frustrated because she's desperately wanting to know what to do next, right? But Rand is just playing coy.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. He's really standing up to people now. Hey,
yeah, but also he has taken maybe a bit of a leaf out of Perrin's book, and that 2 weeks, although it cost him that attack, he blames himself that he should have moved faster. It cost him that attack and people died. It also allowed him that time to just sort of figure out a few more things about what this is that he needs to do. And this is obviously where he got the instruction to go to Rhuidean, that he needs to go there next as part of it. And doesn't Matt think that it's a trick, that they are trying to not separate him and Rand, that he doesn't really believe it at some point? That because both him and Rand got the instruction, whoever they are, the powers that be, the Aelfinn, that he doesn't believe that him and Rand were told to go to Rhuidean, or he thinks that it's not to separate them, that because they both get told in the first question to go to Rhuidean.
I can't remember.
I did actually Google what Rand asked, and I've since forgotten it. I think one is how to defeat the Dark One. And that's when he finds out about going to Rhuidean or something. And
knows how to win the last battle. How do I make the last battle something? Well, Maurice, you can put a pin in it if you want.
Just edit this whole part out.
How about you guys do a callback and go find out?
No, we're going to read the books. We're going to get to the answers.
What does Rand ask?
Back.
I'll go figure it out.
I do have some things to say about this chapter. 1. Rand doesn't need Moraine's help. He figured it out by reading the books that she gave him shit for sitting around reading for. Love it. Fuck you, Moiraine. I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean that, Moiraine. I'm sorry. I love you. But the man is on his own. Like, he doesn't need Aes Sedai strings attached to him. He can figure this shit out on his own. And also, I've written down here Homer Simpson. Oh, yes. Doe. Matt asking his 3 questions reminded me immediately of that episode where Homer has to go to the founder of the Quickie Marts, and he goes on this journey through the Himalayas, and he can only ask 3 questions, and when he gets to the top, he asks,
"Oh man, I remember.
Are you really the owner? Are you really the owner of the Quickie Marts?" Yes. Really? Yes. Really? Yes. Thank you. Yes. Come again. That's it. Those first 3 questions.
I mean, that's like an old story of like wasting your questions by asking stupid questions. And I was so proud of Matt at the beginning of the chapter when he's tempted to ask questions, but where are you taking me? Who are you? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he holds himself back. And then when he gets his first answer, he's like, off the handle. Here we go. Why?
Totally.
Oh,
that's the Homer reference.
He does get an extra question in, like Willie said, which is is cool.
He gets 3 extra answers. He got 6 answers out of that trip. He got a double, 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah, that's Quickie Mart all the way, bro. But there's I think the reason he did that wouldn't have been normal circumstances, is because Rand was also inside and Moiraine inside at the same time, and shit was happening, and the Aelfinn were just freaking out, so they.
Yeah, shit started imploding because their Tavira nature, them 2 being in there, just absolutely wrecked the place. I mean, those snake people just wanted to sliver back into their holes at that point in time. Like, this ain't going well. Put these long arms and long bodies away and just slither back into our hole.
Is it the Aelfinn? It must be the other ones then, that where the clothes are made out of human skin.
Yeah,
that's not these guys, because this wasn't mentioned.
No,
all right,
these are yellow cloth. I really like how Matt starts the chapter by reciting that bullshit promise he made to Egwene. It's like, I told her I would only do this if my life depends on it. And I think this counts. I think, my life depends on it. I'm going to do it now. And like, even in his own rationale, it's like, oh, yeah, kind of. Yeah,
that's iffy.
This will do. Yeah. The Aelfinn are more human-like than I remember.
Yeah.
more humanoid. I'd always sort of like picture them as very snaky, but it took Matt a second to sort of make out that they're not human. The first one that he meets, like Billy said, super tall, extremely slender, long black hair. Obviously the slitted pupils, which is a dead giveaway, and their skin has like a sort of scaly appearance, but then with these weird, like odd yellow cloth wrappings all over them, like monks of some kind.
Yeah. I also got
first
like
I pictured a mummy, and it's like thin wrappings around each individual limb, and I was like, no, wait, that can't be it. And I read it again. I was like, no, I'm gonna go for monk instead of mummy. They also seem to be like feeding on Matt's emotions. At one point, even before the guide takes Matt into the room with the three people answering his questions, or the three Finns answering his questions, I should say, it says his mouth gaped open, inhaling long and slow, which is just super creepy.
Yeah, indeed.
Like even when they ask or answer the questions, they're like almost hissing, like
the savor, like they're freaking out, like they were super into it despite their world crumbling around them. Is fire also a thing that you can't take in there?
No, it was just
you
a
said,
light.
You said
light or a lamp, iron, and musical instruments.
Musical instruments, okay.
Yeah,
because they also have light, and they have these balls, which I just assumed was bulbs, electric bulbs.
Could be, but this is like
this
is a parallel dimension, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a magical thing. I think what they have as their light sources
is a device.
Is like electricity, basically.
When Rand and Matt have a bit of a conversation after Moraine's left, they talk about like the going back to Emond's Field and the fact that Perrin is going. Rand says Perrin will do ... what he has to do to save Emond's Field. I think because he knows that Perrin intends on just giving himself up and sacrificing himself to save Emond's Field, which is pretty rough.
I noticed that sentence as well, and I thought, what is he talking about? And I was hoping it was not that. But
it's the only thing...
Again, like the only thing I can think of.
It gives Rand pause, and it's the only thing that I can imagine Rand knowing Perrin would do. Or like what are Perrin's options really when he goes back? I don't think Rand would have imagined Perrin raising an army and leading the Two Rivers folk and the couple of Aiel that he has with him. And there's a couple on Verin and Alana are there as well, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
And like fight off a Whitecloak army and Trollocs. It becomes a full-on mini story within the larger story, which is why I'm so excited about these chapters. Perrin is going off to go do that cool thing now.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on?
Yep.
Sure. What chapter are we on now? 3000 and what?
The final chapter of The Shadow Rising. No, we're now on chapter 16. And it's called Leave Takings, which I feel is a chapter name that's sort of recycled a couple times. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I feel like I always recognize it as a leave takings. Is that not?
Well, there has also been chapters
in the Lord of the Rings
called The Ways, and there's one, and
that's true. Yeah, I think some are recycled. Okay, so we join the beefy boy as he's lying in bed as the sun starts rising in the morning, but he's been awake for hours already. And when he did sleep, it was all nightmares about Faile and Whitecloaks, her mad at him for what he said, her sometimes seeing him getting hung by the Whitecloaks and being glad about it, and just fitful sleep, like him obviously processing the sort of emotional blows that he dealt her and what is lying ahead of him. Sometimes in the dreams she tries to fight the Whitecloaks, and other times she actually is happy when he's hung. And then in one of the dreams also a bunch of wolves come out of the forest to try and save him, but they end up on the spits and stuff. Like it's all nightmares. It's not a good night for old beefy boy.
No.
But now that he's awake and the sun's coming up, he gets dressed and he heads over to Loyal's room, noting how quickly the signs of the battle from the night before have been sort of seen to, like all the stuff that had, blood on them. The tapestries and stuff have been removed, and like most of the stuff's been cleaned, but he can still smell blood, human, Trolloc, and Madral blood. Like he can discern, Trolloc and Fade blood.
That's not the smell of a burnt Fade, though. That's different. Just
no.
blood.
Also, this is Perrin with serious olfactory skills.
Okay.
I was going to say something, even thought about it when I read it. I was like, see? And then I was like, nah.
Not relevant, not Lan, no burnt Fades. He reaches Loyal's giant Ogier-sized door, and when he knocks, Loyal beckons him to come inside. And inside, everything is also huge, obviously, Ogier-sized. But what I didn't realize is Perrin here makes the comment that Loyal stands even taller than a Trolloc. I always imagine them as sort of similar size, but Loyal's bigger than a Trolloc, which is an interesting image in my mind, like Trollocs looking smaller compared to another thing that they're fighting. Because I always imagine them as the biggest thing around, like they're these big hulking brutes. And just like, okay, cool. So that's how Loyal grabbed a Trolloc by the wrists and kept it sort of like its arms outstretched and also threw that Trolloc against the wall, crashing its head open and stuff. Like Loyal is a massive, massive dude. So those Death Watch guards as well would be hectic. Anyway.
Yeah. Their name is well chosen.
Apt.
Yes.
So big old Loyal standing in his big old Ogier room. But the room is also, the room's obviously covered in books, but also flowers. There's just like flower arrangements everywhere, which Perrin is, probably thinks, oh, this is new. I haven't seen Loyal do this, but I guess we've been here for a little while now, and he's a man of nature, so this probably tracks. So he doesn't think anything weird of it. But he also notices that Loyal is hurt. He's sort of walking with a limp, and he's got a massive hematoma on his head. And Perrin suggests to Loyal that Moiraine should heal him, but obviously Loyal, being as modest as he is, he just plays it down. He goes, "Oh no, don't worry about it. It's nothing." And that's when Faile pops up from behind a bank of flowers holding a book saying that, "Oh, no, Loyal is a hero." And Perrin couldn't smell Faile's scent because of all the flowers. And like she often also does smell of lavender and flowers and stuff. So obviously all these smells have hidden her presence. And Perrin is shocked to see her there, obviously. So Faile continues to explain how Loyal had gathered as many kids in the stone as he could, along with some of their mothers, and he put them all in a room, barred the door, and then held that door against the attack all by himself, against Trollocs and Fades. Right? Like, Loyal, badass, do not anger an Ogier, and here he is like protecting children, and you can just imagine him laying waste to every shadow spawn that got near them. And so this is where all the flowers are from. All the families have, gifted him all these flowers as a show of gratitude. But again, Loyal just plays it down. But Faile is determined to sort of like extol his virtues like faithfulness and loyalty, obviously throwing barbs at Perrin because of his comments the night before. Which is just, my note here is this is fucking cold and manipulative. Right?
Yeah.
Like she, like using Loyal's bravery and like his true acts of heroism to sort of mask these veiled insults.
She's really
Perrin.
acting like a brat. A spoiled, noble brat.
Petty. Yeah, 100%. This is not a good look on her, and I don't like it. She says that any woman would want to marry Loyal, anyone in the stone, and, like just trying to like play it up as if, Loyal is this, this hero, which obviously he is, but she's got ulterior motives here. But Perrin recognizes what she's trying to do, and he just grins because he knows that she's just stepped on a landmine, right? Like bringing up Loyal's marriage is not a way to sort of to set him at ease or build him up at all. So she's trying to, obviously, Perrin figures that she's been buttering him up to try and convince Loyal to take her with him. Because Perrin recognizes what's happening here, he sort of like he feels it on a bit more, and he goes to Loyal. So Loyal, have you heard anything from your mom or like any of the other Ogier in the city? And Loyal immediately is like, no, but he did run into another Ogier named Leifar, who I kept reading as Lanfear every time I read the word.
Okay, it wasn't just me.
No. And so he knows that like the first words that out of Leifon's mouth when he gets back to steading Shangtai will be Loial is in Tyr, you know. So it's only a matter of time until Loial's homesteading, who have declared him now officially as a runaway, will know that he is also in Tyr. So like steading Shangtai is also not far from Tyr, I don't think. So it's like very possible that Loial will need to get the hell out of Dodge if he's to avoid any sort of repercussions of his actions and have to go home to face the music. Faile is totally confused about this talk about Loial's mom and, you know, going back to steading Shangtai or anything. And this is exactly what Perrin wants, right? He's caught her completely off guard. So he uses her confusion to ask Loial to come with him to the Two Rivers, where his mom won't find him, Loial's mom. Loial says he can't write about Rand if he leaves Rand's company, obviously. But Perrin reminds him that you're not going to be writing anything if your mom finds you and marries you off. You're not going to be following any Tel'aran'rhiod around. You're going to be going home and you will be staying at home until your wife says you can leave. But Perrin says, besides, he really, really needs Loial. So Perrin goes on to explain that the Whitecloaks are hunting him and that they're already in the Two Rivers. His family is in danger, so speed is of the essence, and he really needs Loial to take him to the Manetheren Waygate via the Ways. Loial agrees pretty quickly. So this talk of his mom must really have sort of like, you know, fueled his paranoia. So he just agrees, even though, you know, we know he hates the Ways. Like, I mean, he resisted hard the first time. This time he's like, oh yeah, no, I'll go with you.
My mum and
That sounds
marriage or the Ways?
He's a little bit bleak that he can't finish his book firsthand following Rand. It's
Yes.
He's like, oh, I suppose, but when Perrin tells
And that's
him,
when Perrin
"I need
says,
him,"
but no, Perrin says, if your mom finds you, you're not going to write any book. If your mom finds you, you're not writing anything. You're going to be taken back to steading Shangtai. You're not going to be going with me or Rand or anyone. Story's over.
So you can complain about Faile manipulating Loial, but Perrin's doing just the same.
I feel like Perrin's motives, I mean, you're right. He is. Perrin's motives are a bit more pure and pressing. So after Loial has agreed to take Perrin through the Ways, Faile pipes up and she reminds Loial that he promised to take her to see the Ways whenever she asked and before anyone else. So there's some to and fro, but basically Faile has tricked Loial because Perrin mentioned to her before, obviously, like we said in your chapter, Jody, that he was going to ask Loial to take him through the Ways, and that she remembered that saying about, you know, like breaking the Ogier's oath, you know, that never ever happened. So she put two and two together. It's like, I'm going to make Loial promise to take me to the Ways. So Loial can't break his word, whether she tricked him or not. He's miserable when Faile says that she wants to see the Two Rivers via the Waygate at Manetheren. So he's like, oh, okay, great. Why did you drag this out for so long? We can do the same thing. Like, I can take you to the Ways and I can take you to the Waygate at Manetheren and I can help Perrin at the same time. Like, why did you have to make this so difficult?
Yeah.
But Faile reminds him that she specifically made him agree to take her and nobody else. Therefore, Perrin can't come unless he asks her and she says yes. I mean, Faile, seriously. You've already connived your way into going. Now you have to have this like little bit of one-upmanship and say and make Perrin ask. Now Perrin, stubborn fucking Two Rivers blood.
No way.
Never gonna ask. There's no fucking way. So predictably, like I say here, Perrin predictably refuses to ask. He suggests that he'll follow them through the Ways far enough from their party so that he is not considered part of their group. My note here is farcical, because
sigh.
that's just dumb. If you've forgotten about Mush and Shin and how dark it is in there, like you can carry a lantern a couple meters off and not see the lantern light anymore. That's how oppressive the dark is in there. Anyway, so Loial is rightfully worried about this approach, but Faile and Perrin are at a complete stalemate. Faile throws a final jab at Perrin, agreeing that he can follow her like a puppy until he asks. Why won't you ask, Perrin? Perrin just starts ignoring her, and he just says, okay, Loial, we have to leave as soon as possible, and Loial agrees. They make arrangements to gather their supplies while Faile is trying to get Perrin to sort of like answer her, which he doesn't. And Perrin starts to leave as Faile mentions, you know, something about, okay, fine, we'll be leaving from the Dragon Wall Gate in 2 hours or whatever it is that she says. And Perrin leaves, and as he closes the door, you can hear a book hit the door, like where he just was, and he just knows, ooh, that would have stung Loyal as well. He would not be happy about that. So, I mean, Faile is like, she's pushing the envelope across the board here, like even offending Loyal after she's just tricked him by throwing a book. So, yeah, not a big fan of your behavior here, Faile.
No, this whole chapter sucks.
It does. It's
Call us Zareen when we have this that we're dealing with. Like the Zareen.
Yes. Yes. Or Mandab.
Okay, Mandab.
Okay, Mandab. Then immediately outside Loyal's room, Perrin runs into Gaul, who says that Rand had taken him aside and told him of Perrin's intentions. Apparently, Rand had told other Aiel as well, but Gaul is doubtful about where the others would go because they're not going to choose like more wetlander adventures over returning to the threefold land, right? Like there's already word of them going back to the west, and Gaul is unsure if any other Aiel will follow them. But Gaul says he is coming with Perrin. And Perrin is shocked that Rand would ask that of Gaul, but Gaul tells him, Rand did not ask him to go with me. He only told me what you were going to do, and that there were going to be men who would try to kill Perrin. So he's going.
Yeah.
Which is great. Also probably manipulative by Rand, but I mean, he didn't ask him to go, and Gaul obviously feels a blood debt to Perrin.
Mm.
And is also just a stand-up guy and rad all round.
Gotta love him.
Perrin mentions that, okay, cool, well, we'll be traveling by the ways, and Gaul's expression doesn't change, but he blinks. And Perrin says, does that make a difference? And Gaul, his only response is, death comes for all men, Perrin.
Yeah, totally expect to die. We're never making it to the Two Rivers.
Okay, cool. I'm probably going to die here, but everyone dies.
Look at Gaul's take on this. He's pretty straightforward. Perrin got him out of that cage. He let him down. He was going to die there. He's on bonus time now. It's extra time. So okay, cool.
He owes him a blood debt. So then there's a cut to Elayne, Egwene, and Nynaeve. And this is also a almost hilarious section of the story. They're busy dividing up the gold, the leftover gold that Swan had given the girls when they left, with Egwene taking a slightly smaller share than Nynaeve and Elayne, because they don't really know what gold will be able to get them in the West anyway. But they're all sort of put out that Rand didn't try and convince Elayne to stay at all. Elayne thinks that he was actually relieved that she was going to Tanchico with Nynaeve and not staying with him. And she also mentions giving Rand a letter to open after she's left, or after they had left. And they're sort of busy, fussing about when the door slams open. Like the door slams open, bounces off the wall, and as it bounces back, slaps against like Lan's outstretched hand. Like he has barged the biggest barge. Like he is fuming. And his face is like a thundercloud, right? Like Lan, who never shows emotion, is furious. And it's because he's found out that Nynaeve is not going to the tower, as she had led him to believe. And she is instead heading to Tanchico.
Tricksy hobbitses.
Nynaeve, for all her hate of Aes Sedai, is so good at it, right? Like Lan says, you always linked your departure with the Dark Friends going back to the tower, everything. And she's just like, look, I never told you I was going to the tower.
Yeah,
I don't have to tell you anything. Egwene and Elayne look worried because of the amount of emotion that they're seeing on Lan. Like, I don't know that this has ever happened. I don't know if he can control himself.
Didn't Elayne embrace the Source as soon as that happened?
They both do.
All right.
They both do. Because, Lan looks like he's at breaking point. So, Lan does get a bit of a grip on himself, and he explains that, Tanchico is a dangerous place before the war, and it's even worse now. But Nynaeve is being a total Aes Sedai about it, and sort of asking him if he's questioning the orders and judgment of both Moiraine and the Amyrlin, right? Like the Amyrlin has sent us on a mission, and Moiraine has decided not to tell you exactly what we are doing. So are you questioning their judgment or their orders? And Lan is just perplexed. It's like, why? Why Tanchico of all places? Because he's in the dark. Like no one's talking to him about this stuff, and he can just sense like there's a civil war raging there, right? Like, what are you going to go do there? And Nynaeve just says, well, look, if Moiraine hasn't told you, she must have her reasons, and we all have our tasks to perform, being infuriatingly obtuse, exactly like Moiraine, not being, forthcoming with information, basically mini Moiraine. And then Lan is actually trembling when he says to Nynaeve, I can protect you, which is huge. Lan is offering here to break his bond, to go against his duty to Moiraine, to go with Nynaeve to make sure that she's okay. But Nynaeve actually tells him, no, your place is with Moiraine. And Lan is sort of like, my note is, Lan is freaking out with inner conflict. He's not convinced. Nynaeve can't see that, the matter is settled. So as a final act of, authority, she shows him the letter from the Amelin. And he is just dumbfounded. It's like, how are you acting on the authority of you're accepted? What is going on here? And Nynaeve just tells him that he should just be glad that she didn't ask him to dance on the authority of the Amelin, which at the time when I was reading this, I was like, aha, just like she said she would when she got the thing. And then in the story, in the text, they go, that's exactly what Nynaeve. So Robert threw us a bone here and reminded us of that thing. But that is what she said when she got the letter in the first place. So Nynaeve thinks that the matter is settled. And just then Lan sort of rushes forward so quickly, nobody can react. I mean, the girl's already holding the power, but he is,
he's Lan,
a phantom of death. Yes, he's Lan.
He is angry.
And he straight up just picks Nynaeve up and starts kissing her. And she starts by fighting and kicking his shins, and then sort of melts into it. And eventually he puts her down. And she sort of puts up this meek sort of afterthought protest, oh, you've, well, I never. But Lan says to her, you have made a place in my heart where I thought there was no room for anything else. You have made flowers grow where I cultivated dust and stones. Remember this. On this journey you insist on making, if you die, I will not survive you long. And then he smiles at her.
Mwah! That's the most disturbing part of this whole thing.
Yes. You can almost imagine a maniacal smile, a crazy look in his eyes. But before he sort of bows and leaves, he says, I'm not always so easily commanded, even with letters from the Amelin. As you command, so do I obey. And he bows and he kisses her great serpent ring. And she doesn't know if he's sort of making fun of her or if he's being sincere. But he leaves. And after he's left, the girls are like, why didn't you just accept his offer? He's saying here that he would come with you. And Nynaeve says she doesn't want him like that because he would, for the rest of his life, know that he had broken his oath. And she wants all of him. She doesn't want half of him, which is pretty pro. Well done, Nynaeve. And just from that, they sort of return to their preparation. Apparently, Aviendha is readying a bunch of stuff for them to make the journey. And she said that they can get to Rhuidean in a little over a month, at which time Nynaeve and Elayne would already be in Tanchico. So they all have a big old hug and they sort of get a bit teary-eyed and warn each other to be careful, and they go over the schedule for meeting in Tel'aran'rhiod. And she's leaving the ring, the Terangrial ring, with Elayne and Nynaeve, right? Egwene, because she can now go to Tel'aran'rhiod.
She gives it to Elayne so that they can do a meetup in the stone every night.
Right. And then Elaine's final thought in the chapter is just maybe she can quickly go find some pen and paper and write Rand a different letter before she goes, because you can sort of read between the lines here that she really put it all out there and professed all of her feelings and everything for him. At least that's my read on it. I don't know what you guys think might be.
I have no idea. I don't want to speculate. I don't know.
And that's the end of that chapter.
It's not like I paid attention to the love romances in the past, so that's all new to me. That's like a new story, all of this.
When Lan grabs Nynaeve and starts kissing her, Egwene looks away, embarrassed, and Elayne looks interested.
She looks
intently. She's like, "Woo,
is this what I looked like in Rand's arms?"
She's not embarrassed, not at all. City girl versus small town village,
Yeah, I find really in this read through, really taking an even bigger liking to Elayne.
Yeah. I can.
She's great.
Yeah. I like it too. Like you said, like she's not the typical ruler.
No.
She's not royalty. That's such
Spoiled
a horrible.
princess.
Yeah, exactly. She's really
Yeah.
cool.
I don't
Really
know.
chill.
I'm taken to Lanfear. Like,
You've been compelled, friend.
That's her silver belt of hers, Billy. Don't look at it.
Do you guys have any other comments about that chapter?
I thought that Rand gave them a bit of gold. That why Egwene was having a little whinge about Rand, like that they were given so little gold. Or did I misunderstand that?
I think it's
they
the
begin-
leftover gold that Swan gave them.
I thought it was new gold from Moiraine. Wow. 3 different outlooks on
So
this.
there's definitely confusion about, because they can't believe Rand's audacity, and they're busy sewing gold pouches in their clothes and hidden pouches.
I think the audacity was about Rand's reaction to Elayne saying she's leaving.
Okay,
And he was
I
like, yeah,
think-
it's a good idea. Cheers.
Shall we put a pin in that and move on?
It is Moiraine.
Yeah.
Seated on Nynaeve's bed, they were finishing the division of the gold Moiraine had provided. 4
Okay.
fat purses apiece.
So then it must be pissed off about Rand's reaction to Elayne leaving. That makes more sense then.
I cannot believe Rand is that cruel, Egwene said, and Nynaeve added, at least he did not try to stop you. And then the next thing Elayne says is, no, he did not. They're pissed off that Rand didn't try and stop her from going to Tanchico. And he sort of looked glad about it.
And if he tried to stop them, they're like, you've got no way to stop us. You can't tell us
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
We are Aes Sedai. Or we're going to be Aes Sedai.
They're upset that Rand seemed glad for her to be going. But we know that's Rand trying to protect Elayne by keeping her at a distance.
So the old Perrin move.
Such a stupid trope, eh?
Mm-hmm.
You can see, like, Nynaeve as well, when she was, like, talking to Lan and all angry, going, but I didn't say that I was doing that. I thought that's the same bullshit again. But then later on, when she doesn't want him to break his oath, like, she is, you can tell that, okay, she is more mature. She's still got some of that, that immaturity. Oh, but I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I thought that's bullshit. But then later on, you're like, okay, she's because she is older than the rest of the girls. Or
Yes.
the rest of the Emansfield 5.
Yeah. Right. Let's soldier on to chapter 17 called Deceptions. Take it away, Jody.
Indeed. This is a long one. But anyway, we join Thom. And talking about a long one, he's had a very long night. He has been cruising around the Stone of Tyr, lifting spirits and planting seeds. He has been talking to the servants who have been up all night cleaning and packing away, cleaning up Trolloc brains off the walls and removing tapestries and everything that you said earlier, Moritz. These guys have been working through the night and they're exhausted. Some of the when Thom comes into one of the hallways, some of the guys are just sitting on one of the chests. Everyone's taking a break. The cat's away, so they are taking a break. Been working their butts off. So he's been asking questions, just randomly, trying to plant some seeds of doubt amongst the people. Like, well, it is a pity that the Trollocs attacked, and which High Lord is supposed to be responsible for watching the docks and making it look like it's the High Lords that dropped the ball, because he has a massive game of houses thing going on with the High Lords at the moment. But we do find out that it was not the High Lords that are in charge of the docks, it's the Defenders. So, which Defender is the Dark Friend? I don't know. But anyway, it's their responsibility. He's interrupted by the Majir. How would you pronounce this? Yeah, okay. Who
Inconsequential, so I just gloss over it.
the head honcho of the guards, who's putting everyone back to work. As he walks in, she even threatens Thom, like, I can find work for you too. Idle hands, the devil's plaything kind of a thing. And Thom does not like her, so he just goes like, "Well, shit, I'm out of here. Cheers." I'm running down the hall. Pretends he can't hear her. Sorry, I gotta go, and he runs away and heads back to his room. Upon entering his room, gasp! Who shall he find? Rifling through his papers as if she has all the right in the world, Moiraine. So she's been going through his papers, and he pointedly does not look at the chest and his writing stuff that he has under the desk. as to not give away too much information. And then we are treated over the next couple of pages to some of the greatest game of houses manipulation by two masters that we have seen in the book so far. I will summarize as best as I can with my poor knowledge. I am no match for these two people, but basically, this is what goes down.
Uh-huh.
The room is so tiny that they are very, very close to each other. So she takes a seat and reaches out to touch his knee because she can see he's limping, and heals him without his permission, much to his distaste. As we know, Thom is not a huge fan of the Aes Sedai, although he does mention that she is a beautiful woman.
He does.
For an Aes Sedai. He tries to qualify that statement just a little bit. But she heals his injured knee, and of course, he does not want to show that he feels anything, but though he feels fucking great on the inside. He's like, oh, thank God. The pain is gone. I can move my leg again. It's not 100%. And she mentions it's a pity that there wasn't a skilled healer present when this happened. They would have been able to help you. And he was like, no, I doubt it because it was done by a Faile. And she's, I know. And he's like, God, she knows? What else does she know? She knows a lot, Thom. She knows a lot.
She sure does.
She doesn't tell anybody what she knows. That's very frustrating, but she does know a lot. So she starts talking about an interesting evening. And he's like, yeah, like this, I wouldn't use the word interesting. He was like, oh, no, you must not have heard about the High Lord Theodosian and Carlian, who were out on the hunt. You never heard about this? These two guys that you've been setting up to kill each other for so long. The latter, old Carlian, having died in the hunt, Theodosian mistook him, in inverted commas, for some deer or boar that he was hunting and killed him. So he's dead. And then upon returning home, he fell ill because his wife fucking poisoned him straight up after drinking a glass of wine that his wife gave him. And apparently, according to rumor, he was weeping when he heard that his wife would be taking care of him personally. So these are the letters that Thom was writing in the last one, where he was trying to make it look like they're having an affair and that they've been busted.
They were having an affair, but Thom wrote the letter to let the husband know about the affair.
But like written in his own hand, so even he would have thought he wrote their own letter. So anyway, the secret's out. Theodosian took matters into his own hands, killed the husband, but now he's lying poisoned in his own house, with his wife taking revenge on him.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows, and Thom, well, when I say she, Moiraine knows that Thom's involved, and Thom knows that she knows. It's kind of like he knows that she knows that he knows.
Yeah.
And it's like we're deep into Dies Daemar here, and I'm sure Willie, he's sitting with a smirk on his face now. Love this chapter. Yeah. So also she knows who he really is, and his past as the court bard in Camelin. She drops the whole history on him in Camelin. Like, he was court bard in Camelin. He was lover of Morgase for a time and was a great, or I would wrote you, the Grand Master of the Game of Houses. And even when he was lover of Morgase, apparently Tel'aran'rhiod was going to kill her at that point. She, unbeknownst to her, obviously, before he died. So we get a whole bunch of tidbits coming from the past there. But Thom can give as good as he gets. So he says, yeah, it's interesting what you can divine from somebody's name, Moiraine Damandred. She is Tel'aran'rhiod's younger half-sister. And this blew my mind, because I didn't know this shit. King Laman's niece. What? Interesting and very important facts that I had forgotten entirely. And he knows that she's been helping Rand this entire time, from before she knew he was the Dragon Reborn, or before she knew he was even a kid that could channel. And that means that she has connections high in the tower. And this is where he falters just a smidgen. He thinks that she has connections in the hall, in the sitter, the hall of the sitters, or possibly even more. So he doesn't even go as high as the Amberlin seat. But come on, Thom, you could have, But it's because he was caught off guard. If he had investigated this a bit more, I'm sure he would have figured it. Of course, Moiraine is unfazed by all of this information, with the Aes Sedai serenity that pisses everyone off. So I think basically Thom just kind of gives up at this point and asks, enough of this shit. What do you want? What do you want from me? And she carries on immediately. She wants Thom to go with Elayne and Nynaeve to Tanchico. And he thinks, to separate me from Rand, not to protect the girls, which is her argument, but he's not buying it. And he's like, no, thanks. I would prefer not to die in Tanchico if I can avoid it. That place is a shithole. I'd rather not be there. I'd rather stick with Rand. All right. But Moiraine guarantees him that he will not die in Tanchico and that he can go and protect Elayne, Morghase's daughter. And I think the implication here with her game of houses manipulation is like calling it Morghase's daughter, kind of reaffirming that your daughter, because she's bringing up that he was a lover of Morghase. And there is speculation, I don't know how much of it is confirmed or not, that Morghase could be Thom's.
Elayne could be Thom's daughter. There is, I think they talk about it later, but I think Thom discounts it out of hand. I think what Moiraine is trying to do here is play on his affections. Like when Thom was around Morghase, Elayne was already little. She was born. Is she Gawain's twin? Or is she older or younger than Gawain?
Now you're asking something. I don't think they're twins.
I don't think they're twins either. Anyway, the reason I ask is because of sort of like their resemblance and stuff, you know. Like I think Gawain and Elayne have the same father, and I don't think it is Thom. But there's enough of like a sort of grey area there that it might be, but I don't think that Thom actually thinks it. I think what Moiraine is specifically doing is just playing on his connection there, if not a paternal connection.
Yeah, like definitely playing on his emotions there, and it works. She gets the better of him. But yeah, whether or not it's his affection for Morghase or his affection for Elayne or both, that's what she's playing on. And she also knows about Owen. And this is a huge informational dump right here. Apparently the Reds that caught his nephew gentled him on the spot in his hometown and left him there to the mercy of his neighbors, who murdered him straight up.
Yeah.
Chased him out of town and he died. And this shocks him shocks Thom that she knows about this. And also that all these memories start coming back. Owen had a young wife as well, who also followed him to the grave not a month afterwards. So like we get a much deeper understanding of this pain that Thom's been carrying around, and it all comes back up to the surface during this conversation. And Thom can see the sympathy and regret on Moraine's face. And this is the first time that I think that Moiraine regrets saying something. But I think she's so desperate to convince Thom to go with the girls that she didn't want to bring all this shit up. And because she has affection towards Thom, obviously, because she knows the future already based on Min and based on her viewings through the Stone Town Grill right now, or the answers that she got. That's why she can guarantee that Thom will be alive and that she will see him in the future.
I actually didn't tie the Aelfinn to that statement. I thought it was leaning on. I'm assuming that Min has had a viewing because of what she said about knowing the face of her husband already. And everything Min sees always comes true. Yeah. So if Moraine's going to marry Thom, she can send Thom to Tanchico before they get married, knowing that he has to come back because they will get married. But I don't know, maybe the Finns also told her.
No, I don't believe that Moiraine would go to the Finns for 3 questions and use it on her own personal...
no, but she might have got an answer that confirmed something else.
The answers are also like, I mean, Matt doesn't ask very specific things and they give him all sorts of detail around it that I also thought was like, well, you're offering a lot here, Finns, for like a harsh sort of people. And the regret that she felt, I thought, was her sort of empathizing with Thom, not necessarily a regret about saying anything, but just because she goes on then to offer the names and then say, like, she sort of has this remorseful look when she says they should not have done what they had done.
Yeah,
that
but
was
that's
against
the
our
sympathy,
law.
not the regret. The regret is that she had to dig up these old emotions in Thom because she can see it on his face. And he does break down. Like, she regrets hurting him.
She regrets hurting him, yes.
Yes. All right. So anyway, she also promises that, look, I can guarantee you're coming back. And when you do come back, I will give you the names of those Aes Sedai and who gave them the orders to do this. And Tom's like,
Yes.
so what? What am I going to do with Aes Sedai names if they're wrapped up in all of this power? Like, what can I do to Aes Sedai? And she's like, look, someone with great knowledge of the game of houses can do a lot with some names. So it's like, and I know you know, buddy, you can do something with those names.
The Grey Fox.
The Grey Fox, yes.
That's the name she knows him by.
Exactly, yeah. There was a bunch of that I kind of like, I didn't jot down here. She says, a skilled player of the game of houses will find a use for those names.
Oh, yes.
Totally you. And she tries as well to, in this moment, to convince Thom that not all Aes Sedai are like those Reds. You know, some of us are good folk. Some of us are good ladies. But he can't take it anymore. All the stuff that she's dredged up, that he's tried to, push down all of these years, comes up and he asks her to leave. After she's gone, he literally falls to his knees and weeps. His choices are help Elayne and leave Rand in Aes Sedai hands like Owen, or disobey. So he's in a tight spot. He doesn't want to leave Rand. He's put in so much effort to help him. But Moiraine's pulling on his heartstrings there, so shame, poor guy. And all of the shit that's come up to him, he literally just collapses to the ground in tears after she leaves. Poor old dude. Then we jump over and we join Min, or Elmendreda, in the tower. Her quote-unquote lady training is coming along nicely. She can cross a room with a glass of water on her head and it won't fall off. But that's because she can't walk properly in the dress, so she has to take tiny steps in her defense. Is it Lara who's the mistress of the kitchens? I think her name is Lara. Laris. Has taken a liking to Elmendreda, a big liking, and she's taken her under her wing, and she's giving her approving glances across the room as she glides out all ladylike. She's like, oh, you've come so far, my child. Min has taken up embroidery. She's horrible at it. She's not very good at all, but that's not the point of it. She's learned that a woman can sit for hours watching and listening to everyone and everything while embroidering, and nobody would think it's strange. So a great little tool for her to be a spy. Just then, Gawain and Galad approach her. Of course, Galad is beautiful, the most beautiful man she's ever seen, blah, 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 blah. Yes, we get it. Galad doesn't recognize her. The only person in the tower to not instantaneously recognize her, but he didn't have that much time spent with her, so it's understandable. And by now, she's got the makeup on, the eyeshadow, the blush. She's full on made up at this point.
Also, there's not an ounce of subterfuge in Galad, right?
No.
So he doesn't expect it from other people either. Why would someone present themselves in a completely different way?
But he does mention, he looks at her, I can't remember now if it's Gawain or Galad, looks at her embroidery and goes, because she's been trying to do roses, yellow roses. And he's like, oh, those are beautiful yellow swallows. It's like, sure, swallows, why not?
Yeah.
Gawain, this is like as she's left now, she's left the hall and everything, so they're outside. Gawain shoves a copy of a book in her hand, The Way of the Light by Lothair Mantelar, the founder of the Whitecloaks. And he's like, what do you make of this rubbish? But he's not helping with her cover at this point. And she has to pretend to be dumb. She has to play dumb the whole time. She's like, oh, books, I don't read books. I promise I'll read one day, and everything, tries to play it down. So apparently this book is Galad's. Galad has been reading up on the Children of the Light. In fact, he's been out in town, in the city, in taverns, drinking with Whitecloaks, being indoctrinated. And he is like, no, I can see that people hate the Whitecloaks, but if you read this book, you can see the virtues and everything. It's right in
Eamon Volder
Eamon
gave
Volder,
him that book, personally.
When?
In town, in the tavern.
He signed the book in the front.
They say that, yeah.
All right. I don't recall reading that at all. Anyway.
They will meet on the dueling grounds.
They shall, indeed. Then Gawain continues to try and break down this facade around her, like a moron, asking her about her meetings with the Amyrlin, and if when she met with the Amyrlin, did they speak about Egwene and Elayne? And she's like, shut up. stop saying this in front of your brother Galad, giving away too much and connecting her to Egwene and Elayne. This is not going to help anybody. But just then as well, behind Gawain and Galad, she's immediately distracted because she sees Loghain being brought out for his daily walk by one of the accepted. And he captures all of her attention because she sees a viewing of a flaring halo around his head, signifying glory and power. And he has been gentled. So she's like, what the F? Why does he still have that if he has already been gentled? And Rand has proclaimed himself the dragon. What's going down? And immediately she decides, look, this is important. I've got to tell Swan right away. So she excuses herself. Galad thinks it's because, she's been disturbed by seeing Loghain, the false dragon. He's like, don't worry, my lady. He's not dangerous. I'll protect you and blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, I have to go lie down. She's feeling faint is her excuse. And Gawain accompanies her to try and get more information about Egwene and Elayne. So Galad's off on his own and Gawain comes with her. Once they are far enough away from Galad, she lays into him about being so goddamn obvious. Fucking stop it. Like, this is supposed to be a secret. And he's like, I know, I'm sorry, but I've got to know about my sister and Egwene. Because he's kind of like, because he at some point as well is like, if she has been hurt, I don't know what I will do. And Min thinks, what she is he referring to? Because she doubts that even he knows who he loves more. So Gawain and then makes some snarky remark about her being a pretty clever little girl, and she tries to punch him in the face. These girls, I gotta love them. Unfortunately, she is unsuccessful in this attempt. This is not like Nynaeve punching Liandrin in the face. She never expected it, but he has been trained to avoid punches to the face every day for the last several. I don't know how long it's been. How long has he been in the tower? Months. We'll say months. Yeah. All right. So cool. He's pretty good at dodging it. So he does dodge it. So anyway, she heads up to the tower, to the Amyrlin study. She comes into the study first, into the little room beforehand. There's nobody there. I'm surprised that she's so easily able to just move around and just walk into the Amyrlin study. No one's there protecting it. Anyway, she gets straight into the Amyrlin's room itself, and there sees Siuan and Leanne at a table, deep in discussions and thoughts with papers all over it. And they shoot her glares of absolute death. So you thought that, Faile looks could kill. Wait until you walk in on the Amyrlin and her
keeper.
Thank you very much. Without invitation, while they're in the middle of something very, very important, it would seem. She tells him immediately about Loghain, and the Amyrlin's like, just add that to the list of shit I have to deal with. Why don't you? And she kind of lists the list of shit that she has to deal with. There is starvation in Cairhien. All right. That's obviously because of what's happening. There's the grain barges and
granaries.
The granaries. Important shit about grain. There is an Aes Sedai missing in Tarabon. Looking at Tarabon, Tanchico area. That's Tanchico. Don't know who that is quite yet.
Might still find out.
Trolloc raids are increasing across the borderlands. The Prophet is causing crap. He is saying now that the dragon has been reborn as a Shinarian lord. Because he still believes that Rand is some sort of lord in disguise or some shit. Yeah. Anyway, so there's war in Aradoman, which has stopped trade from Saldea. So we're getting a little bit of Faile's homeland news. There's unrest in Maradon, which is the capital, and Tenobia, who is her aunt, is it? Yes.
Yeah.
May be forced off the throne. So huge turmoil up there in the borderlands. But there is some good news. The Blight has retreated from Saldea to Shinar. Along the Blight, 2 miles extra of greenery and loveliness. Now, I'm wondering if this has something to do with Rand's Tavernus and proclaiming himself the Dragon Reborn, and that there was just a burst of goodness in the world, like the opposite of a bubble of evil. I wonder why.
Saldea to Shinar, that's the full northern border.
Length of it.
Full length.
Yeah. I thought maybe it had something to do with Ishamael dying.
I've got a theory about that. The Eye of the World being completely tapped out now, it's done. That maybe plays
Wouldn't that have
into
the opposite
that.
effect?
No, because the Eye of the World was right there in the Blight for a reason, that no one would go there. It was
Well, technically, the entrance, I think, was in the Blight. I don't think the Eye of the World was actually in the Blight. I mean, there's some sort of
No,
parallel dimension shit going on there.
Yeah, some weirdness, some first book weirdness.
Yeah. Swan then takes the viewing of Loghain quite seriously, so she asks Leanne to double the guard on Loghain, just in case, because she doesn't need any more shit popping up around her. Min pleads her case then to be set free and to go to Rand. She's like, look, the stuff I've told you now is pretty much useless. Nothing important is coming out, but she is denied. She's not going anywhere. Min kind of loses it at this point, and she's like, but why this and why that? And she launches into some sort of tirade. Like, why is there no news of Egwene and Elayne? But Swan slaps her hand on the table and just cuts her off in the middle there to put her in her place. Like, you're overstepping your bounds. But just then there's a little knock at the door, and everybody freaks out because how are they going to explain that Min is in the ambulance study again? So they come up with a quick little plan, like, Lan, go to the door, get ready to open it. You sit down. And she starts giving her shit, like pretending like they're in the middle of an argument, giving her crap as Leanne opens the door. And it's just a poor little novice shitting her pants, hearing all of this shouting going on. And she's got 2 messages for the ambulance seat. So it's like, great, thank you very much. Get out of here. Off she goes. And the first message is that Mazrim Taim has escaped. He killed 2 Aes Sedai. And he's on the loose. On his way back to Tarvalon, he managed to escape.
Not far from Tarvalon, the Black Hills. That's
the
right
Black
there.
Hills. Yep.
It's just north of the Caroline Grass.
Yep.
Just to the west of Tarvalon itself.
That's close. So close. Almost had him. So Swan says, orders, Leanne, more orders for you. Send 12 reliable sisters. Reliable nowadays is up for definition. You can interpret that as you will. Plus 1,000 guards to bring him back. 12 Aes Sedai and 1,000 guards. That's a formidable force. And go and, well, not even bring him back. When you find him, gentle him on the spot. And Leanne is like, whoa, what? And she's like, no, we can't take any more risks as it is. Like, when you find him now, obviously you can't do this again. You gotta take, and that is not how things are done, which is what happened to Owen, as you remember. It's frowned upon, to say the least. But anyway, the second letter, or the second note they get, is confirmation from Moiraine that Rand has taken the Stoner and has taken Calandor. Finally, news reaches the tower of what the rest of the world already knows.
Fucking Siroth knows.
Siroth knows. She's on an island in the middle of the Aryth Ocean. She knows.
Yeah.
So Swan calls for the hall to be convened today. Not only today, now, like in an hour, right away. She's going to announce that the dragon has been reborn and that the tower must guide Rand. So now is the time to come clean to a degree. She's not going to let out all the information about what she knows.
No.
All right. So anyway, now is the time to come clean and let everybody know so that they can get the tower into action and guide Rand. So close, Swan. So close. That's where that section ends. And then we jump over to old Sarah, or Sarah, as you know. She was the one that brought Min originally to see Swan when she came back to the tower. She has been sent for penance on a farm to hoe some vegetable patches. Just to keep her out of the way, really, because she's pissed off. She doesn't know what she did wrong, and rightfully so. She didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and we can't have her saying stuff. Little good it does, because just then she is approached by a hooded Aes Sedai, who she assumes is an Aes Sedai, who asks her questions about Min. Who is this woman that you brought? Who did she speak to? And she's like, well, I don't know much. And then all of a sudden, immense pain. And she finds herself lying on the floor. And this Black Aja member, I imagine, because we never see her face or hear her name, is torturing this poor girl for information and eventually tortures her to death. She also kills everyone else on the farm because she wants to know everything there is to know. Because at the end of this chapter, it ends with hearing, like there's no sounds on the farm, not even the sound of breathing. So literally everyone is murdered by this Black Aja, and that's how the chapter ends.
Yeah. I figure it's Alviarin. Just because Elida had shared some information with Alviarin
Yes,
specifically.
it's got to be. Or if Alviarin's so high up in the chain of command, she may have sent a minion to do it. But yeah,
she may have.
Could be her as well, because she needs that information firsthand, and she's got it. Well, so much. This poor girl got sent away for no reason.
Black
Died.
Archer don't mind getting their hands dirty. They go and do it.
Thom he thinks to himself, he has enough eyes and ears, or hands and ears. So he's already got like a big spy network going, and not just eyes and ears, like hands and ears. So people doing stuff for him, which is great. He also, when you alluded to this, Joe, when he sees Moiraine, he calls her, "Now there was a beautiful woman." He goes on to say, "With every grace a man could want, including laughing at his quips." Which I've never seen happen, but that must mean they've had interactions off screen where she's actually laughing at some of his jokes and stuff. So there is like something happening that we are not aware of. And then he makes another mention of her smooth, pretty face. Like this chapter is actually quite heavily laden with hints about Thom's perception of her. I already mentioned Grey Fox, which was what she knows him as. But she also says, such arrogance for Thom to keep his name.
Yeah.
Because he's known in Cairhien and Camelin, and he's not changed his name at all. He's still Thomdril Marilyn.
Yeah.
Also, Terengale, we know, meant for Morghese to die. The implication here is that Thom had him killed before he could have Morghese killed.
Is that the implication? Because that seemed like a Thom move.
That's what I read into it. Like Thom was already the court bard. He was sort of like already taken a liking to Morghese while Terengale was around. Then caught wind of a plot because Terengale his plan would have been intercepted and him taken out before that could happen by someone. And Thom seems perfectly placed and adequately skilled to make that happen. So to me, if Thom didn't kill him by his own hand, at least would be responsible for the death of both Terengale and old G-Man, what is his name? Galdrian in Cairhien. Like Thom, not scared of taking out the top dogs.
No, it's with the second king,
which is just so badass. Love it. When Moiraine says to Thom that she will give him the names of the Aes Sedai, she says it quietly, which to me just shows like the stakes. I don't know how Moiraine sharing this information goes against the Three Oaths. I don't think it specifically goes against the Three Oaths, but certainly goes against like Tower law or tradition or something. Like she's taking a big gamble here, divulging Tower information to someone not affiliated with the Aes Sedai.
Well, they're most likely Black Archer anyway.
Possibly. But would Moiraine know that?
No, she wouldn't, but who cares?
So that's not a reason for her to break law.
Statistically speaking, Billy, you are correct. The odds are high.
1 in 5.
One of them.
I also noted that the very next scene is with Min, which to me sort of tied that like Min viewing with Thom's survival together. I also took note of the fact that Galad is vulnerable because of his worry over Elayne. That's why Eamon Volder is able to manipulate him into like, maybe Whitecloak is the way to go and not White Tower.
Such a Whitecloak thing to do. Those Whitecloaks jump at people with vulnerability.
But if Volder is the one that's enticing Galad to the Whitecloaks, he's inviting his own death.
Yeah.
It's because of his own actions that he's killed. And then also when Swan gets the news about Rand, she laughs like a girl. She is so relieved, like she can finally,
20 years.
Get the stuff off her chest. But yeah, that's it.
Right on.
All right. One more chapter to go in this marathon.
Woo!
It is chapter 18, and it is called Into the Ways. Willie, you can do it. Get us through this one.
I can do it. You're quite right. Perrin has packed his thing and that he's getting ready to go. the room has almost not got his scent left anymore, and he's gotten used to the fact to not be in a place for a long time. It's kind of been a bit of a backpacker over the last couple of months, years, and he's still having his inner monologue and dispute about the axe and the hammer. He has now got the hammer, but he's putting the axe belt on with the axe, and the hammer's going to go in the saddlebags. But both are coming with. There's no two ways about it. He is joined by Gaul, and only Gaul, and that's puts him in a really sort of a dismayed position that he's realized that now there's no army that he can rally. 100 Aiel or 10 Aiel can do what 100 men can do, and maybe he can take and save the two rivers in his own life. But he then makes Gaul promise that Faile is coming. He can't do anything about it. But if he is faced with the news, that he just makes sure that she is not there, like take her away or whatever to get out of there. And he says, "Yep, no, look, he'll do that if it comes to that." On the other end of the spectrum, Faile, if he can. At the other end of the spectrum, Loyal and their little sub party now, because this party is turned into two parties. Loyal, Faile, and Bane and Chide has decided to pull in as well, which also puts a little bit of pressure on Ghoul there, because now he's got a blood feud as well, and he's got no sister love there or anything that protects him. So he just says, "Look, I will not dance the spears with her, but if she decides to dance the spears with me, I'll dance along." So
his words are, "Unless she offers."
Unless she offers. And then
I just love the language they use around battle.
So it is a bit of a tough one there, but we'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, Perrin gets old Stepper, who is known to true to his name, even in the stable there. And Faile has procured herself a lovely Terrenian horse, black and all built of speed and all the good things. Perrin loves his horses. He tends to think about those horses for quite some time. But yeah, they basically get ready, get on the horses, and all of a sudden there's a massive, like the stone just ringing, like Rand has done something again. And Perrin's like, "He's not pulling me back. Like, that's it. We ride now." Despite that he's supposed to be following Loyal and Faile, he just bolts out, and Loyal and Faile follows, and the three Aiel decide they don't ride horses, so they'll just run along. And Perrin is going Stepper flat out of the city, and eventually only when they hit sort of the out edges into the country now, he slows down and they sort of pull up, and he looks back and he can actually see, now the Aiel is close by. They'll be here now. And the two girls, Bane and Chide, gets there, and Ghoul alongside them. And there's bickering going on about, the maidens can outrun. That's why they use this messengers. But they're not even tired at all. Prior to them departing, there's still this whole puppy dog file going on. Like, "Oh, come on, why can't you just ask, and he'll be my puppy. He'll follow behind." And Ghoul does his little, almost a massive 2-span high kick and jump in the air, spears coming out, and like, no, they'll be like rich cats. They won't be like puppies, or a wolf behind. And then Chide, or was it Bane? Sorry, said, "No, I've got a wolf pelt back home, and they're easy to take down." And Perrin growls at her, like actually growls. It's like, "No, don't talk about killing wolves around Perrin. That's never a good idea." But yes, they all then get together. They start moving towards the Waygate, and Loyal is now starting to lead them, and he's getting angry. Already now the Perrin Faile thing is pissing him off, because he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He doesn't want Perrin, who's his good mate, to get hurt in the ways by having to do the stupid thing of following like a puppy. And then he notices that the whole grove has been chopped down. There's nothing left of it. And that's just angered him quite a bit. He finds the waygate or the position of it and pulls off like a log or like shrubbery. It's probably growing over it on this hill. And Bane and Chide and Gaul is like, whoa, they got the Avendasora leaf that he pulls out. And they're just taken by this and puts it in place. And the shimmer starts to glow and the waygate opens. And Perrin's like, let's just get on with it. And he just goes through, but he remembers, unlike the others that's going to follow, that take it slow because there's a time shift in and out. So he doesn't stumble and fall his ass off. He gets the horses through. He's got a pack horse as well, and they get going. And Perrin and Ghoul is in first, and he's like, look, we'll meet them at the guiding. See the line on the floor, we're just going to follow that. They can meet us there, and from there she can take the lead with Loyal.
Well, it's from that point on he needs Loyal to actually show the way, but he knows the white line leads from the gate to the first guiding, so he doesn't have to wait, and he wants to like give her a little shock. He wants to not be there when they come through.
Yeah. So, and that is the end of that chapter there. Still a lot of pettiness between the two of them. But the only question I really have hanging over my head in that one is what happened with Rand at that moment, which we'll probably read later on. I haven't read any further.
Next chapter, probably.
Next chapter, probably. But yeah, that's nothing spectacular or crazy happening on there except Perrin growling at Bane.
And Perrin seeing the Aiel in the distance and saying, they'll be here soon. And Faile going, he must be mistaken. He likes to brag about his eyesight, but those are probably farmers that left the city around about, the same time we did. And then like mouth agape when they just run up and they stop and they're like not even sweating. It's like, okay, cool. We're
still fresh. And there's a lot of chirp. Bane and Chide gives Ghoul so much chirp.
Well, Triad, who is the one with the blood feud, she with both Bane and, because Gaul and Bane are actually from the same sept.
Sept, yes.
What are they? Sharad.
She's Goshen.
Yeah, but the one that he falls in love with is the one with which his clan has a blood feud. So of course, constant jabs. I love it.
You boys got anything to add there? That was a nice short chapter, actually.
Yeah, I was surprised when you said, and that's how the chapter ends. I'm like, what? Already?
I like that Gaul says to Perrin that Faile's pretty handy with those knives. Like, he knows that. And when Perrin notices that Bane and Chide are with Faile, he clicks, oh, this is why Gaul said he will take her away if he can, because he'd have to deal with Bane and Chide as well. Yeah. When Perrin suggests that Bane and Chide could keep Faile out of trouble, Gaul throws his head back laughing.
Young fools.
What else? I'm trying to picture this clearly in my head. The Dragon Wall gate is obviously the gate facing towards the east, so they rode out of Tyr towards the spine of the world. When they're actually heading towards Eamon's Field, which is in the other direction. But the Waygate is out that way.
It's out that way.
I don't remember anything about this trip through the ways. Like, obviously something's going to happen.
I don't think there's a lot about it. It's they take it and get out. That's what I think.
Let's see. Yeah. I can't trust RJ to just make it smooth sailing through the ways. Something's going to happen. Surely there's a Trolloc attack, or Mushin makes an appearance, or something's got to happen. Don't know. I don't remember at all.
No, I can't remember. I hope it's going to go well. I know it's going to go well. They're going to get on.
This whole thing about them traveling further away from them just lends itself to like added tension as well, right? Like, what is going to go wrong here?
Yeah. Well, look, Bane also. Sorry, not Bane. Gaul tried to get some more to join, but the other Aiel was just like, nah, can't go deeper into these lands. It's just the air's too wet to breathe, and they need
everyone's
to get
going back to the west.
Yeah, getting back to the west. Let's get wasted in the waste.
They want us to go to a place called the Two Rivers. One river is enough, bro. That's way too much water for me.
Couldn't have picked a worse name for the destination. Okay, wow, guys. That's a lot of content, hey? Still just 100 pages, but because it was split up into so many sections, I think that when I read it, I was like, oh shit, this is going to be a long episode, and it has been.
When I was making my notes and my hand was cramping, I was like, oh shit.
Okay, here we go. Amount of cramping directly proportionate to the length of the recording session. Should we dive straight into our favorite moments?
Go for it.
Yep.
All right. Willem, hit it.
Oh, Matt in the Archers. One time.
Yeah. Cool.
It's his luck that just he's able to get 6 answers when he's only supposed to get 3. It's the best.
And just his general attitude, like his like indignation and like, you know, he's throwing his weight around and then trying to go back after they like literally pick him up and
throw him out.
The door. He jumps up and he wants to get back in again. This is the thing that people are too scared to go into. Matt is in there making demands and stuff. It's so good. How about you, Joe?
I'm going to go with Perrin, Faile, and Elayne. That confrontation in the room, which leads to an all-out fisticuffs, judo, jiu-jitsu showdown in the hallways.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And then, you know,
and
Ruach breaking them up and stuff, like sending them to their rooms. Just all great.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really great. Hey, look at this. An episode in which we picked 3 different favorite moments because mine is not either one of those. Mine is the whole interaction between Thom and Moiraine.
Oh, yes.
Them sort of flexing their diastema muscles and sort of letting the other one know what they know about them and, you know, like the hints at what Thom and Moraine's relationship could be. You see aspects of Moiraine, or at least like when Thom thinks about her laughing at his quips, like you don't see Moiraine laughing ever, and Moiraine sort of looking remorseful about having to hurt Thom's feelings to get him to do the thing. Like she's acting out of character on multiple occasions in this thing, and it just gives you a bit of a reassurance that yes, she is human and not just an Aes Sedai programmed robot, which is really cool. Rowan wrote in and he said that was his favorite moment as well. So I ended up sharing a favorite moment with at least someone on this episode. I don't come off scot-free.
No.
And Adrian wrote in saying that she really liked the introduction of Amis. And which I also really liked. I mean, there's a couple of honorable mentions here. That was also one of my honorable mentions, her introduction, as well as the fact, so this is Adrian saying that she was, again, just super surprised by the introduction of the Finns. Like it comes out of nowhere. Like she likened it to the Seanchan coming out of nowhere and collaring Egwene. Like, whoa, you know, that's out of left field. And it is very much so here as well. When you read this the first time, you think like, oh, cool, this is like some like plot device that they'll use once, and then they use it again later with the Aelfinn. You're like, oh, okay, twice, and then later it becomes like Towers of Genji, and like there's a lot of stuff actually tied to it. So it is a really cool introduction. My own honorable mentions are Joe, Rock handling, Elayne and Faile.
Yep.
Lan willing to forsake his oath to Moiraine to protect Nynaeve. The introduction of the Finns and the introduction of Amis. Like that's why I was so excited about these chapters, right? Like there's a lot of like the wise ones, the Finns, people heading off to the Two Rivers battle, the girls heading to Tanchico, Rand going to the west, Egwene learning about the dreaming, you know, like there's just so much going on here. Thom and Moiraine and them sort of like this, I think, is probably the interaction between those two that most sets the scene for their implied relationship at the end of the story. So to our listeners, send in your favorite moments to us. Send us your favorite moments. Send us your corrections to our, you know, harebrained theories and obvious mistakes that we make all the time. Don't let me harp on the pedantry all the time. Have some for yourself as well and let us know. But also just any kind of comments or just say hello or like, you know, anything that you think is good or bad. We welcome all the feedback. And I forget to always say this, but if you're listening to this episode, you know, sometime in the distant future when we've recorded a whole other 30 episodes, do still write in. Just because you're behind the latest episode doesn't mean that you can't interact with us. We revisit stuff all the time. So if there's any light you want to shed on anything, or even just a cool idea that you have about something, let us know what it is, because that's what we feed on, much like the Finns, the cool ideas and the emotions evoked by just having an interesting thought or anything related to the story that could be fun. just tweet us at Blood and Ash Pod or contact us with through any of the social media links in the episode description. Next time on Blood and Ashes, we will cover chapters 19 through 24, which is again 6 chapters.
Hey,
look at that. Pure coincidence. It's 100 pages. It's 6 chapters. Chapter 19 is called The Wave Dancer, and chapter 24 is called Ruidian.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Looking
Stuff
already
is happening. Yes. I mean, at the end of the next episode, we'll be halfway through this book.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Wow. Yeah. Charging along. But until then, I will bid you, gentlemen, and our lovely listeners a fond farewell. So, farewell.
Adios.
Spokojno noci.